Whoopsies. Saving America one mind at a time. This is Smith Radio. And now, your hosts, Carrie and Brian Smith.
I know a lot of people in Michigan that are planning to vote for Trump. And they don't necessarily like him that much. And they don't necessarily agree with him. They're not racist and rednecks, they're actually pretty decent people. And so I wanted to sort of, after talking to a number of them, I wanted to write this. And Donald Trump came to the Detroit Economic Club and stood there in front of the Ford Motor executives and said, if you close these factories as you're planning to do in Detroit and build them in Mexico, I'm going to put a 35% tariff on those cars when you send them back, and nobody's going to buy them. It was an amazing thing to see. No politician, Republican or Democrat, had ever said anything like that to these executives. And it was music to the ears of people in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, the Brexit states. You live here in Ohio, you know what I'm talking about. Whether Trump means it or not is kind of irrelevant because he's saying the things to people who are hurting. And it's why every beaten down, nameless, forgotten working stiff who used to be part of what was called the middle class loves Trump. He is the human Molotov cocktail that they've been waiting for. The human hand grenade that they can legally throw into the system that stole their lives from them. And on November 8th, Election Day, although they've lost their jobs, although they've been foreclosed on by the bank, next came the divorce, and now the wife and kids are gone, the car's been repoed, they haven't had a real vacation in years, they're stuck with the Shield Obamacare bronze plan where you can't even get a fucking Percocet. They've essentially lost everything they had, except one thing. The one thing that doesn't cost them a cent and is guaranteed to them by the American Constitution, the right to vote. They might be penniless, they might be homeless, they might be over and fucked up, it doesn't matter. Because it's equalized on that day. A millionaire has the same number of votes as the person without a job. One. And there's more of the former middle class than there are in the millionaire class. So on November 8th, the dispossessed will walk into the voting booth, be handed a ballot, close the curtain, and take that lever, or felt pen or touchscreen, and put a big fucking X in the box by the name of the man who has threatened to upend and overturn the very system that has ruined their lives. Donald J. Trump. They see that the elites who ruined their lives hate Trump. Corporate America hates Trump. Wall Street hates Trump. The career politicians hate Trump. The media hates Trump after they loved him and created him. And now hate him. Thank you, media. The enemy of my enemy is who I'm voting for on November 8th. Yes, on November 8th, you, Joe Blow, Steve Blow, Bob Blow, Billy Bob Blow, all the blows, get to go and blow up the whole damn system because it's your right. Trump's election is going to be the biggest fuck you ever recorded in human history. And it will feel good.
Right now, a historic moment. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects Donald Trump wins the presidency. The business tycoon and TV personality capping his improbable political journey with an astounding upset victory. Donald J. Trump will become the 45th president of the United States, defeating Hillary Clinton in a campaign unlike anything we've seen in our lifetime. Donald Trump wins the presidency of the United States. He is now going to be called President-elect Donald Trump. He's walking up right now. You see him right there. He's going to be speaking momentarily. He's got his wife there. History has been made. Jake, this is a moment a lot of people are going to remember.
I am your voice.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smith Radio. Your host, Brian Smith.
Carrie Smith.
Wrapping up last week. We're going to take everything that you heard last week, going to wrap it all up. We're going to scrunch it down in a small ball of whatever it is.
Yeah.
We'll make sense of it all. We'll espouse our opinions, which are always, I don't remember the last time my opinion was wrong. Well, usually always right.
You know how we're right?
Because other media outlets are taken from us. They use our information.
Well, there's that. No, I'm saying we're always right because, and this is important. This is why people appreciate Smith Radio. If we're not 100% sure, we're not going to go. We're going to tell you. We're going to say, you know what? This is what we know. This is the kind of information that's out there. But it could be something else. And we'll say that.
Right? Absolutely. So a couple of shout outs real quick. Just want to give a heads up. Smith Radio now has an official D.C. White House correspondents, media personnel in the briefing room with Spicy, Sean Spicer, Shallon at Real the Real Shallon, Shallon, Ian.
It's like Alan, but put SH in the front.
Okay, Shallon, Shallen. Follow her on Twitter.
Don't forget the in the front of it because I forgot that the last couple times. The Real Shallon. Yes.
Oh, no good. Yes. And we'll tweet that back out again. So obviously follow us on Twitter at Smith Radio, and then mine at Brian P. Smith on Twitter. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes. I was told by Shallon, because she's a huge iPhone, Mac, personnel, and she said when you're on iTunes, if you're listening to us right now on iTunes, hit the 5-star, and that'll get us to propagate. The show will propagate more higher up on the list. So that's awesome to know. We are starting a new blog as well, to where we'll be writing and sending out articles pertaining to news throughout the week. Politics throughout the week. Keep everybody updated. We'll also retweet those on Twitter, so you'll be able to follow that as well. Go to smithradio.com. You will find everything there. The treasure trove of information you'll see.
It's almost like a clearinghouse for new media.
It is an absolute clearinghouse for new media.
What it is. That's why, that's what I always wanted to do. There's all these people that I've kind of found over the years, some of whom have been creating content for years, but I didn't know about them. You come to smithradio.com and you'll see all the discoveries that have taken me years to kind of figure out. And of course, a lot of that gets added on when we show up to DC for things like the Deplorable and the New Media Gala, and also the Bull Moose Party, where we, I never knew about Hunter Avalon,
Had no idea.
And then I realized how big he was when he started having fanboys come up and ask him for his autograph and selfies. And I was like, well, I guess I should look at this guy up. And then he is a 250,000 followers. But it's only on YouTube, and he's never on Twitter because he got banned so many times. He's totally
given up.
blackballed. Yeah, he gave up.
We haven't given up on you folks. When you go to Smith Radio, or when you run into folks throughout the week, which I do often, who say, okay, Brian, if everybody's such fake news, and now it's at work, everybody sees it, hey man, fake news, Brian, fake news, like all day long. So Brian, where do I go? If everybody's fake news, where do I go for the real news? Go to smithradio.com. We'll post up the people who are putting out real news. We'll expose those who are propagating fake news.
Because it'd be hard for us to go through and say, okay, this is what everybody said all week. But what you'll end up finding is that you follow the people that we've followed, and maybe even if you got somebody that has good news and that we're not following, you can make a suggestion, and we'll add that to the list of real news. It's a small list, relatively speaking. We're talking about national news here. All of U.S. politics being covered by like a handful of people, really, if you really stop and think about it. And and whenever it's really good, we'll actually showcase it on the show. But what you'll find at Smith Radio on Twitter, will always like or share or comment on every single video on YouTube or something that gets posted on Twitter from these real media people. And we'll say something like, Tim Pool says, you know what? Breaking news on him this week.
Oh.
He said, I will no longer use the Washington Post as a source.
I'm shocked it's taken him this long.
Well, no, I mean, it's just Tim Pool is one of these guys that's like, he's right down the middle.
His picture, is this the one where his picture on Twitter is he's got the helmet on and the flak jacket, the bomb vest that says media?
Well, he always has a beanie, but he does have a flak jacket on that says press.
Okay. For those of you out there listening right now, if you know where to get a hold of a bomb vest or a flak jacket that says
$300, $500, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you know where I can get one on a deal, or maybe a Christmas present coming up, give me a heads up.
We'll take the helmet too.
It was so cool.
Just the tip, though.
Just the tip of the helmet.
It's a little early in the show for that.
We're not in the third out. I was talking with Shallon before the show.
Yeah.
And we've going over show prep and things going on. And she's like, so I shouldn't say this, this, and this. I'm like, well, you'll be on in the third hour, and most kiddies are getting cleaned up for bed by then.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's true. So, only the most diehard fans at that point are like, right, give it to him, Brian, give it to him, Carrie. And yeah, so.
Let them have it. So in the third hour, we will have Shallon come on. We have Vanessa Delaney. Vanessa says, my husband said he can get us a media bomb vest flak jacket for $100.
Does it have the patch that says press? You got to check out. If you go to @TimCast on Twitter, that's who we're talking about. That's Tim Pool. And I believe his profile picture has him in the flak jacket. It's like, I'm pressed, but I'm here to cover this war. So I don't want to get killed. Yeah, that's what
hysterical. That is. So we also have just kind of getting everybody set up. If you're listening to us live Sunday, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, you can go directly to smithradio.info. That'll take you directly to the Spreaker page, and you'll see the little live button and the link. Click on the link. The chat session will open up for you, so you can be part of the chat. You chat throughout the entire show with some of the other folks that are on there. And again, Vanessa, great to see you. I know Nettie's on, and Mary Lou's on as well. So good evening, everybody. Also, throughout the week, I get a lot of people telling us, hey, we love listening to your show throughout the week. Where can we listen to it? A quick link, if you have iHeart on your app on your phone, you can search Smith Radio. You have to put a space in between it, I believe, Smith space radio. Or you can go to a quick link we created for you, iHeart.smithradio.com. Also, please, if you like and share the show, this is new news media. We don't, at this point in time, this is a part-time job for us. We fund everything 100% for the last 4 years on our own. So we have set up a page.
Patreon.com/Smith Radio. Don't forget it's spelled SMYTHRADIO. And here's the thing.
YouTube doesn't like funding us very much.
Well, nobody will. It's as simple as that. What it boils down to is this. We're in a new era. You can no longer, if you're listening to us now, you care enough about the fact that fake news media is out there propagandizing you, propagandizing your family, your friends, your colleagues, your enemies. They're just out there lying to everybody in a way that's believable. And when they believe the lies, it's just total manipulation. And what you don't know is that when you pay for cable service or satellite, doesn't matter. It's the same thing. A portion of what you pay, and it's a big price. What is it? $110, $120 a month a lot of times, right. When even for some of the most basic stuff, you're bundled in to mainstream media. So, for instance, if you want ESPN, you're stuck with CNN. You may not want CNN. You may want to defund them completely. You may even be boycotting their sponsors. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you might also get Russia Today.
Russia Today, MSNBC, and here's what they do. This is the devious crap that they pull with Time Warner Cable, Spectrum, whatever you're doing, is that they separate like channels into different bundles so that when you pick and choose all the channels that you really want, you end up with the entire package. You end up with every channel because they'll make sure they know that people who like ESPN also like the History Channel.
Correct.
So they'll put those two in different bundles so that you're forced to buy both bundles. And they'll have like 6 different bundles. So what you end up with, if you get all the channels that you really want, you end up with all the bundles. So you pay the full $120 per month or whatever it is you end up paying. And that's not even premium channels. That's just like all the basic stuff that used to be free back in the day. So you end up with all that. And that money is paid to all these different channels, some of whom get paid a lot more than others. Like your ESPNs, obviously, are going to get a bunch of money because everybody who gets cable has got to get ESPN, and they all know that. But CNN gets a chunk of that money.
Right.
So they put out crap. They don't have any ratings. Their ratings are irrelevant because they get a portion of the package that you're paying for. So here is my suggestion. Cut the damn cable. I know you're going to have to suck it up and go without ESPN, but there's a couple of remedies for that. There's actually a bunch of different ways you can get these kinds of sporting events and all that kind of stuff. But also, news-wise, first of all, if you need your local news, go get the rabbit ears. Digital rabbit ears will get you full HD, high definition, full quality through the air for absolutely free. You just get the rabbit ears, the powered rabbit ears that do the main channels. And then all that money that you saved, $120 a month you're saving every single month. If you want to really make a difference in politics, and you really want to make a difference in the Trump movement, and you really want to make a difference for the
fake news, sorry.
Okay. For the future of your children and your grandchildren and just freedom for the whole world, you just take that $120 that you would have been spending on the cable that you just cut, and you divide it up amongst all the different real news outlets that you enjoy listening to or watching on a weekly basis, and they do it through Patreon. And Patreon, what I like about Patreon is that it's kind of set up to do a monthly charge. So instead of like YouTube will do the super chat.
Right.
Super chat means that while you're listening to somebody's live stream, you say, I'll do super chat, and it asks you for your payment information, and you pay whatever you want, but it's a one time. That's it. One time. But if you want to support people who have ongoing content like Smith Radio, we do this every single Sunday. I don't think we've ever missed a Sunday. Maybe one in like the last 4 solid years. Like Mother's Day, we'll do it on a Saturday. Like we don't miss episodes ever. We have we're like military over here.
Christmas Eve was Sunday night last year.
Okay.
Christmas Day was Monday.
Yeah.
We got jacked up.
So
what'd we do? Everybody's doing Christmas Eve with fam. So we did a show on a different day. We just did a little.
We did it.
Yeah.
We did it.
We did do it.
We didn't just say, we're taking it off. We got to do it. We just got to do it a different day. We make it happen. So that being said, we got the ongoing content. We've been doing it for 4 years. You give us the monthly. You could do as little as $1 a day. I was talking to my dad the other day, and I said, how much did you pay for the Mark Levin thing? And he said, I canceled that. I'm not doing that anymore. Because he got upset about some of the stuff that was being covered.
Dude, your dad.
And I was like, good for you. But he said it was like $80 for a whole year. Well, if you break that down, that's like only $8 a month, right?
Yeah, with Rush Limbaugh. If you want to get the Limbaugh letter, if you're part of that Limbaugh and you can listen to it commercial free, it's $9 a month.
Okay, so $9 a month, or for Mark Levin, it was like $8. We're not asking for $20 a month.
No.
I mean, you do $1, a couple dollars, whatever.
You can do 20 if you want, though. I'm not mad.
Yeah, and by the way, thank you, Sam, who's been supporting us, been very, very supportive over the years.
Shout out to folks. Listen, Sam Keels is thrown out there that he'll match and also put up some more if we can just get other folks to come on board.
Right.
We've got sponsors in the background that are watching us, and when they see other folks starting to pony up and subscribe to the channel, subscribe monetarily wise, they're willing to match that. We just have to show them that we have that ability to have that following to make that happen.
Right. So please make that happen. And really, it's just a lifestyle change where you just got to say, you know what? I'm getting sick and tired of being lied to. And it should be an embarrassment. Come on, I'm not trying to blast on anybody listening or whatever. I'm really sorry. I don't mean to insult anybody. But it should be an embarrassment that you have $120 taken out of what your hard-earned monthly income. Hard-earned. You go out there and work every day, and you're just trying to make America great again. If you're going to make America great again, you need to do something. You need to be an active participant, and one of the first things you need to do is you have to cut the cable. I'm not kidding. That is a big part. When you support fake news, you're not just saying it's okay for them to lie to you. You're saying it's okay to lie to everybody who could possibly listen to them, and they do get listens, and it's not just their live audience, because their stuff gets retweeted, their stuff gets put in little clips on YouTube, and it just trickles down. Their stuff gets broadcast nonstop in airports across the country. It's all...
Where was I at? I was at...
everywhere.
The bank that I go to always has CNN on.
Yeah.
Why?
I didn't even realize this until Mike Cernovich pointed this out. Sometimes you go to the urinal in the bathroom and there's a TV right there above your head in the bathroom. And you look up and it's always on CNN. And that kind of stuff is happening all over the country. Cut it off. Cut the cord. Stop giving them money. And one thing you could do is enjoy an extra $120 of disposable income every month. You could do that, or you can contribute to making America great again. And I'm not saying pledge the whole. I don't want you to do that. Don't pledge $120 a month to us. I know Brian's probably going to be screaming at me
unless
right now.
you want to. I'm not going to stop you. I love you.
What I'm saying is the right thing to do is divide that up amongst the handful of people who are delivering the real news, and we're definitely a big part of that. There's people who do it on a daily basis. Make sure you contribute to them. All of us contribute to all of us, and no more than $120 a month, because I don't want you to be out more than what you were out every month before cutting the cord.
Because as you well know, if you don't live underneath a rock this week, we've
fake. Don't we love that term, fake? What we've learned about fake over the last little while. Fake news. CNN. Fake. Whoops, the camera just went off.
Oh, leave it down low.
This is it.
Okay, you can come back. I won't say. I promise I won't say anything more about you. I see that red light go off. I say, whoa.
This is Donald Trump at the American Energy Summit.
Oh, yeah, that was not that long ago, yeah.
He's speaking, and every time he says fake news, the CNN camera red light that it's recording goes off. That's what he's talking about.
That's hilarious. Okay, so the reason I know exactly what he's talking about is because I used to go to UC, and we were #1 in the nation in basketball, right? So almost like all of our games were televised.
Right.
And of course I went to every game because I was excited that the college I was going to had the #1 basketball team in the nation. And so I'd be in the student section, and periodically they would turn the camera on us, and we'd scream and holler and wave our arms in front of the camera. And you knew it was on because it was this big old red light. And when the red light was on, that means you were live. And yeah, so I know exactly what he's talking about. That's funny. So
and CNN knows it too. They're all over him. So,
oh yeah.
Okay, in the second hour, we're going to do a little tribute, 4th of July tribute. I have a little something lined up for everybody to listen to. It's historical. It's history. It's things that we've.
Is it real history, or is this?
It's real history, and it's things that we either were not taught or we might have been taught, but in parts and pieces, and it just we may have forgotten. So a little bit of a 4th of July coming up in the second hour, but right now we've got to start talking about what is real. What's real right now? If you haven't seen it, go to our Twitter page right now. I've got it pinned to the top of the page, or go to Smith Radio Twitter page. Donald Trump this morning, right about 6 hours ago, 7 hours ago, maybe now it's 6.5 hours ago, tweeted out a video, a 30-second video. And let me give you some backstory real quick. Folks, if you don't know, back in the day, Donald Trump used to hang around with the WWE, WWF, Worldwide Federation of Wrestling stuff. And
back then, it may have been WWF. I can't remember when they changed it.
He had fun with it. It was incredible. Let me tell you,
he's personal friends with Vince McMahon.
Right. Trump, I mean, I can't just say Trump is a boss. It's just who he is. So McMahon would have him come down as a boss, and you may have seen it already, where he clotheslined McMahon. And then there was another time where he clotheslined, it might have been McMahon, somebody else, and then pretended on the ground, got on top of him, pretended like he was punching. It's all fake. It's entertainment. It's fun. Well, 6 hours ago, Trump tweeted out, somebody altered that picture of Trump clotheslining, we'll just call it McMahon.
Altered the video,
and the head of McMahon is a square box that says CNN.
Have you seen the it's a website called Jib Jab?
Yes, yeah.
It's kind of like they did a Jib Jab, but instead of replacing a head with a picture of you, because you can upload pictures of yourself,
right?
They replaced Vince McMahon's head with the CNN logo.
Correct.
And so Donald Trump is beating the crap out of CNN.
The logo on the ground, he's on top of it and punching the living daylights out of it. It's 30 seconds long, and after he gets up and walks away, it still plays, and it replays the clothesline, fall down, punch, clothesline, fall down, punch. I mean, it's just an over and over for 30 total seconds. Donald Trump tweeted that out himself.
That's unprecedented. You know what it was? It was brilliant. And the reason it was brilliant was because up until that tweet, there was a certain level of decorum that was exercised by Trump on Twitter. There was like this line that he wouldn't cross, like he wouldn't put memes up. Although the last meme he put up was the one with the Star of David, and everybody was saying it was anti-Semitic. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That was a huge controversy, and we pointed out that it looked more like a sheriff's badge than, because it was a 6-pointed star, and we were trying to say, wait a minute, wait. Just because it's 6-pointed doesn't automatically mean Star of David type of thing. But it was big controversy. That was the last meme I remember him ever putting up.
Yeah.
So fast forward, he becomes president. It's been months and months and months since any of that, maybe even a year since any kind of memes. So it's been mainly rhetorical on Twitter, sometimes crossing the line with the bloody face. I guess we should get into that story, shouldn't we?
Yeah. So if you haven't gone to Twitter and liked and reshared that video of Trump clotheslining CNN, in 5 hours there were 260,000 likes. In 6 hours, it's 290,000. I believe there's 300,000+ likes on that video right now. CNN, fake news, MSM, mainstream media falling apart at the seams this entire week. This week, mark it on your calendars. This will be the death of mainstream media. The exposure of mainstream media, and it's the title of the show is today, Rise of New Media as Trump BodySlams CNN, VeryFakeNews. And we've got James Okeef. We've got permission from James Okeef. We actually got the heads up from James before he went live with the breaking undercover video of CNN lying and cheating and stealing and telling on themselves. We've got some of that audio today as well. However, Donald Trump. We played it last week, and Trump might have been listening. That's probably why this all went down. we played last week Mika trying to compare Trump to Kim Jong-un.
Right.
And calling Trump a dictator. America feels more like a dictatorship. And then Joe was like, oh, jeez, this woman's going off the rails. Joe tried to talk over her. Well, Trump tweeted out, I heard poorly rated Morning Joe speaks badly of me. Don't watch anymore. Then how come low IQ crazy Mika? I mean, if you listen to her, you can clearly see she's low IQ crazy Mika. Along with Psycho Joe, came to Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago is Trump's private golf course and resort down in Florida. Apparently, Joe and Mika went there 3 nights in a row around New Year's Eve and insisted on joining me. She was bleeding badly from a facelift. I said no. I'm going to tell you, hold on, folks. Most of the time...
I'd like to add a little context to this.
If it was anybody else in the world that would have tweeted that, I would have said, yeah, he's making that up. I'm going to put $100 right now.
Oh, I'm sure. No,
sure that was true.
Nobody denied it.
Okay.
But let me add some context to it that I think is interesting. I started hearing about the tweet from people before I saw the tweet. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, that wasn't necessary. Or, oh, why does he have to go there? And that's what people were saying. And I was like, uh-oh, what did Trump tweet? So I'm expecting the worst. And I think somebody else said that, and this was about the tweet, not the tweet, but about the tweet, said, oh, man, gosh, you really shouldn't be saying that about women. And so I'm sitting here thinking, oh, my gosh, what did he say? So I go to the real Donald Trump or real Donald Trump at whatever Twitter, and I read the tweet just as Brian read it to you just now, and I was being critical of it I already heard from people already, and my first reaction after reading it, after hearing what people were saying about it, was, now wait a minute, he's just stating facts here,
right? She showed up with a bloody...
Like with a trail of blood behind her or something. Like she's dragging a mop behind her to soak up the blood.
Joe's got the mop. He's walking behind her.
Right. And something like that. And he just decided, you know what? You're bleeding. How about no?
How do I sit down and have a drink with you? Mika, go get cleaned up.
Oh, let's go Bloody Mary or something like that. I don't know.
So
he's... That's what... I mean... Let's be honest. The only thing wrong with that tweet, realistically, when you really stop and think about it, is that generally women like to not expose certain things. If they get a facelift, they don't want anybody to ever know that. Ever. I mean, it's like my mother-in-law. She has blondish, kind of sandy blonde hair. But she's way beyond the age that you would normally go gray.
Right.
She never tells anybody she colors her hair. Ever. And if you were to ever ask her something like, so who colors your hair? That would be the biggest faux pas ever. So the only thing wrong with this tweet is you're supposed to keep certain things secret. My mom, you know what my mom says? My mom says, women do not fart.
Right.
They don't do it.
Ever.
They don't do it.
No.
And if anybody ever tells you they do,
it's a lie.
They're lying.
They're lying. Lie.
My mom says that. So there's certain things that you're supposed to keep absolute top secret when it comes to women. And this particular tweet definitely flies over that line. That's the only thing wrong with this tweet. It's not like he's making fun of her looks. They go into it. They go into, oh, well, this is making fun of her looks. No, he's just stating a fact. She's bleeding from a facelift.
Right. Well, and the fact that she's bleeding and facelift both together, no good. Just like Botox. And there's somebody on
You'll
Twitter.
You'll never be able to look at Mika the same way ever again.
No, never. Just
knowing that she was all like they removed her face and reinstalled it.
Right.
Like just like the visual.
And if you do Botox, you and somebody calls you out for that in public, that's just as embarrassing as well. those are private things you're trying to do to keep yourself looking good, and it just
right. So it's something that there's just certain things that you just never ever admit to. And I'll tell you what, if you show up to a day 2 of a 2-day party and you're 100 pounds lighter, people are going to know that you did liposuction. Okay, so I'm just saying you want to schedule that on a day where you can kind of play it off. Just saying.
The best that you possibly can.
Especially if it's 100 pounds.
Oh, Lord. No, I knew someone who did that over the weekend, and when she came back, everybody saw it. And it was just like, oh.
Did anybody say anything?
Everybody talked behind her back.
Oh, because they couldn't say it to her face. And let me guess, she didn't say anything.
No,
she should have just relieved the pressure and said, guys, I know what you're thinking. But you're saying she didn't do that.
Is he going to go crazy?
Oh.
No, so good times. We've got a sound clip here. We start with those here right away. Okay, so this is the Bloody Mika hate group. This would be Nancy, I've lost my ever-loving mind, Pelosi. Mm-hmm. And this week, Nancy Pelosi was talking and up on stage with somebody sitting in a chair, and she just started talking and...
So what happened?
I'm here, right.
What happened?
Okay.
What?
Just like that. She blacked out. She went straight. The eyes faded. She faded.
We got to talk. Speaking of blacking out, we got to talk about Gary Byrne this week.
We'll get to that. And so Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, a crazy woman on MSNBC, and then at the very end, the Hispanic-speaking woman. Her name is Ana Navarro. She's
such a piece of work.
I want to say, was she mayor or governor of New Mexico, somewhere around in there. Anyways, the reason why I remember her, because she was having a hotel party with her friends.
What was she, 15? Hotel party? Who has a hotel party?
It was a hotel party. It was so loud and so out of control that the hotel staff kept telling her to keep it down. They called the cops. The cops showed up. It literally made a scene. She told the police officers, hey, do you know who I am? No, you don't know who I am. And let me tell you who I am. And she goes into the tirade. She's a Republican. Yes.
Oh, like Ben Shapiro's a Republican?
Yes. So it's just really sad. Anyway, so here's the reaction from females after the Trump tweet.
I think it's so blatantly sexist. I don't even know that there's a question about it. But sad to say, I am still the highest-ranking woman. I thought that was all going to be resolved in November. Instead, we have a person in the White House who not only doesn't happen to be a woman, but happens to disrespect women. That's too bad.
You spend your time in the morning dealing with attacking human beings that happen to be Americans and happen to be the media. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. President. I've gone through, as a member of the Judiciary Committee, impeachments. But we can't wait that long. It is time for you to resign.
A man who, in his life and in the campaign, has acted like a misogynist, a sexist, a sexual predator. He is just not a decent human being.
This is objectively a statement from the highest office in the land, from the president, that objectifies women. This is a statement that is cruel. It attacks a woman's appearance.
This disgusting dude, is the president of the United States and says, listen, you crazy lunatic 70-year-old man baby, stop it. You are now the president of the United States, the commander-in-chief, and you need to stop acting like a mean girl.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm offended with Nancy Pelosi big time. How dare she assume his gender identity?
You know what?
He could identify as a woman.
That is true.
And for her to sit there on her high horse and say that the fact that we don't have a higher ranking woman than her after November 8th is an insult to all those who have fought and bled for women's rights. And by women, I mean people who may identify as a woman today. And it's an insult to the right of our president to identify as a woman as he feels fit. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong whatsoever.
I'm just saying.
Wow. Give it just real quick before I forget. Give a shout out to Kekistan Rose. Thank you, Kekistan Rose. Kekistan Rose has set up a Smith Lords Facebook landing page. So if you're on Facebook, type in Smith space Lords
with an S.
Lords? Yes, with an S, and it's like a landing page, a lot of memes, a lot of things. It connection. People connect after the show or whatnot.
Oh, awesome. It's like an after party.
It's an after party.
Oh, I love it.
So good times. Thank you so much for that. I'm absolutely honored. We're both honored by that. Thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you.
So back to the insanity that ensues. Nancy Pelosi is so done. It's so over with. These women who scream sexist, bigot, homophobe. It's over. It's too much.
It's not gonna work. Don't let me forget to talk about Damon Lynch too. Little local politics that we got into. But anyway, go ahead.
So Trump had a couple other tweets this week that the media was absolutely beside themselves on. And I know Kekistan Rose mentioned something earlier about Trump tweeting out about Mika, completely distracted all of mainstream media, so that a couple things could get through.
Yeah, the first person, I want to give them credit for it. The first person I heard that from, didn't come up with it myself.
I didn't either, nope.
Sam Keels.
Oh, that's where it's all from Sam.
Yeah, he threw out there, look at them all distracted, and now we can get all this stuff through. Yeah, I mean, here's why I totally agree with it. It just seemed totally out of the blue. How is it that Morning Joe and Mika have been broadcasting all this stupid crap for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then out of the blue, out of nowhere, Trump decides to get all offended by it? It's so obvious he's throwing out a shiny object, a squirrel for all the dogs to just look over, squirrel, and just be totally distracted. And that it seems pretty obvious in hindsight. And thanks to our listener Sam for pointing that out. I think that was a very good analysis, because there were things that were coming up that day and the next couple of days, right?
Right. No, absolutely. So, and we'll get to those. The travel ban one, Trump's travel ban, and Kate's Law.
Oh,
Two things that come up. So I'm just scouring real quick on the Wikipedia, the liberal site of information. You got to be careful when you're on the wiki. You just never know. Morning Joe. How long has Morning Joe been on? Morning Joe is a weekday NBC News morning show, talk show. It's been on network cable news, MSNBC. And they're saying, it was a replacement for Imus in the Morning, which was...
I remember that, yeah.
Which was Imus, an older guy with a cowboy hat, and did a radio show as they videotaped it for cable.
Oh, right. I remember that.
He was breaking ground on that.
They call Imus, and this is going before I was born. I'm just going by what other people are saying. He was the original shock jock. He was before Howard Stern. He was before all these shock jocks. He was the original one. That was news to me, because the first time I heard about him was when he was on MSNBC early in the morning, really early. I don't know what hour it started, but it was early. If I had the alarm set or I woke up super early, I could catch Imus if I turned the TV on MSNBC. But anyway, I thought that he wasn't very funny. He wasn't very shocking.
No.
I thought that he...
Real dry.
Yeah, it just... Sometimes I was like, are you talking just to fill dead space, or what's going on
Well,
here?
he was when he referred to the black basketball women's players nappy-headed hoes. That ended his MSNBC career.
To be perfectly honest with you, I think it was his producer that said nappy-headed hose.
Oh, not him? He just repeated it?
Yeah, he said, he just laughed. It was his producer. It was like, nappy-headed hose. And he was talking about, I think it was like Duke's basketball team, and it was like all black women. And so he called him nappy-headed hose. There may have even been a white woman on the team, whatever.
Okay, so Imus is over.
Yeah.
And MSNBC started out with Joe Scarborough.
To replace him, yeah.
And Mika Brzezinski, who both were married to somebody else at the time.
Right.
In 2007. They've been on the air for 10 years.
Honestly, I thought it was longer than that. So,
well, when you got a bad viral disease, you want it to be over with as quickly as possible.
Wow.
So they went.
Can you tell us more about that?
So the disease that they're passing around, I'm telling you, folks, this is a joke. When this broke this week, I was talking with some of the folks at work that are baby boomers. They're in, the twilight years, if you will.
They're in hospice. Do you work in a hospital?
No, but I mean, they come to me. We talk about news and politics all the time, and I mentioned to them. I said, "Hey, you know Joe Scarborough?" They're like, "Who?" I said, "Morning, Joe. How about Mika Brzezinski?"
Do they have cable?
Yes, they do, and they shook their head. Like 3 or 4 of them shook their head. So I pulled up a picture of Mika and Joe, and I said, "These people," and they're like, "Nope, never seen them in my life." How is it possible that a news network airs a show for 10 years and the average man on the street or woman has never heard of it before?
Yeah, and it's not like this is ESPN 8.
9, 10, 11.
This is like the main
ESPN
cable.
Mexico.
Right. Yeah, actually ESPN is Spanish for sports, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what it stands for.
Okay,
Espanol Sports.
Oh no, you didn't. We've got our Hispanic listeners that their eyes are, the blood is shooting out of their eyes,
or wherever. Yeah. So anyway,
but that's my whole point. And now this is I'm going to make the full circle here to what Sam Keels had said earlier this week about Trump lending cover. This show's been on for 10 years. It's an awful show. The only sound clips that I played from the show are the ones where it's just absolute insanity.
They're trying to be shocking.
Right.
And we're like, oh my gosh, we got to play that. That's actually kind of entertaining because it's so absurd or something like that. So
never watch the show, never have time for the show. All of a sudden, Mika says something as dumb as she said last week that we played about Trump being a dictator, America being a dictatorship. Trump tweets out, blasting her and the whole show. They get more viewership, more ratings than they've ever had in the entire history of the show on one tweet from the president. And while that's going down, travel ban passes, Kate's law passes, and nobody even talks about it. Nobody says a word about it. And
it's really weird.
And the whole week it was hate and anger towards Sean Spicer, towards Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I hate saying her last name, Sanders. Keeps making me think of Bernie. Huckabee.
Well, I'm thinking Huckabee. She's related to.
That's her dad.
Yeah. So I'm not a huge fan.
Huckabee.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good guy.
He jumped ship early. Got to give him credit for that.
He's a good guy. And he was so banal.
Yeah. No.
Or is it banal?
Banal. He jumped ship as soon
I like to pronounce it banal. Anyway, he was so banal.
John Banal. No,
he likes, when it comes to politics, he likes it banal.
Right. Third hour will be coming up later on.
Now, what I'm saying is I don't even know why he was there when he was running for president during the primary, because he didn't put the kind of effort he did in 2012. I thought he was, I felt like he was putting forth a real effort. This time around, it was like, why are you here?
Well, the problem is that if you folks don't know, there are people who make a living, a career out of losing.
Ah. Okay.
If you run for political positions, you can collect government matching funds if you get enough signatures, raise enough money, but your opponent's got more money. Government money's involved in all of this. You can be rich.
Yeah, well, you could actually quit and keep all the money.
Yes.
That's
if
crazy.
You lose, like and if you go down a list, go look it up on a Google, you can find out after the presidential election, because we reported on this. After the presidential election, you go down the list and see how much money the candidates had left over. What was left, what was spent, and what was left.
And how many people never got their money?
Right. And when you lose and it's over and you close your campaign, by law, you get to keep all that money. And so the headhunters started coming after Jeb because they wanted their money back. Because old Jebby Bush didn't have no money left. But then you've got other folks.
He weighed in this week on the Mika Brzezinski crap.
Dude, he's such a...
He's like, you sound presidential. Oh, I don't even know if you know this, Brian.
I got the tweet that he said about presidential. Trump retweeted out when they're saying, this isn't very presidential, Trump. And Trump tweeted out, my use of social media is not presidential. It's modern day presidential. Make America great again. I'm good. I'm good with it. Anybody that ever says to me...
And that was very shortly before he put up the WWF slamming CNN, which...
Right.
That pretty much...
That's a nail in the coffin.
Yeah. At that point, like, what do you do if... Let me explain something to everybody listening here. The media has been attacking Trump. They're using the same MO that they've been doing for many, many, many years, where they try to shame you into this little box called being presidential. And so they can attack you on certain behaviors just by labeling it unpresidential. And Trump was kind of going along with that a little bit. He didn't go too far because he didn't want to be blackmailed with it. Like, oh, you better not behave like that. We're gonna jam the unpresidential label down your throat. But then suddenly today arrived, and he decided, you know what? I am not going to be put in this little box that you put me in, mainstream media. And that was what the message was today. The message was that he's not going to be silenced by being peer pressured by the media into thinking that there are certain behaviors that he cannot engage in because that would cause a frowny face on these mainstream media people. And I am so relieved to know that the guy that represents my voice and all of your voice is free to do whatever the hell he wants to do and say whatever the hell he wants to say.
Correct. Were you the one that told me that Bernie Sanders got a Lamborghini?
Oh, I don't know if it was a Lamborghini, but it was clearly a car that was worth at least $200,000.
Okay.
There's a video of him driving off in it.
That's what I thought. You showed that to me. Yeah. So we were talking about...
It was red, I think.
On the...
It might have been a Lotus.
Okay.
Whatever it was definitely a sports car. It was definitely brand new, and it was definitely one of those $200K plus.
Right. And the only reason why I bring that back up, if you're listening to Smith Radio right now and it's Sunday evening, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern, go to smithradio.info and you can join the message, the chat session currently in session. And I want to give everybody a heads up that is on the chat right now. I've got a small glitch on the app, the Spreaker app on my desktop.
Maybe I can.
So the only way I can respond to you in a chat room is through my cell phone, which is cool.
That's what I do all the time anyway.
Takes a little bit longer. But anyways, you can join the chat, smithradio.info. If you're not and it's through the other week, it's some other time, go to smithradio.com. At the top of the page, you'll see a red button on the top left. It says live. That'll take you to the live show. On the right, it says iHeart. Click on that, and I'll take you directly to the iHeart page where you can listen to us on iHeart 24/7 as well. Like and share this with your friends. Greatly appreciate it. This is new news media, folks. This is the Mike Cernovich. This is the Mark Dice. This is the Paul Joseph Watson. This is Smith Radio. We literally lending each other credibility in the sense that the media, the information that we put out is factual.
Yeah, because Brian is my unnamed source, and I'm his unnamed source. And
I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to name names, Terry.
Naming names. Did I just let the cat out of the bag?
No, but
you're familiar with the situation. You're always familiar.
Oh, someone familiar with the situation
with the matter gave
me
heads up. Oh,
inside information.
So Brian is familiar with the matter. So whenever he says something, I can report that somebody familiar with the matter reported on Sunday that X, Y, and Z, and we can just say whatever we want. Right. That's how fake media.
No, absolutely. And so all week it has been. If you're on the YouTube, Mark Dice has been. It's just type in Mark Dice, he'll come up. He has been so active with his 3-4 minute videos, sometimes 5. He's been absolutely blasting fake news media as we do here on the show. But check this out. This is absolute insanity. MSNBC this week pulled up a relic, a dinosaur, if you will, and referred to this man as a fellow
what?
Reporter or fellow, like he was
colleague?
Yeah, like he was a colleague.
Okay.
Help me out here. Do you know who Phil Donahue is?
Yes, I'm old, I know. He's like 1,000 years old.
Was he ever on the news in any credible sense?
He may have been. Now, I'm speculating because I'm not that old. I'm old enough to remember who he is, but I'm not old enough to know his entire resume. But when we were a little younger, like maybe our 20s, late 20s, he was like a Jerry Springer ripoff.
Yeah.
He had a Jerry Springer type show. They didn't scream Jerry. It was something else. I don't know. But they were people fighting. They would have like the KKK come in and have a debate with people that today would be considered Black Lives Matters. And, chaos ensued.
Okay, he loved Ralph Nader, and he briefly hosted a talk show on MSNBC for July for 9 months. So while he was pregnant, he
had to be let go.
He was ranked 42 out of 50 greatest TV stars of all time.
What?
42 out of 50 of all time.
There's only 50. So he was in the bottom 8 of all time.
Right.
I could totally.
This is on the Wikipedia. That Wikipedia is also calling him an American media personality, writer, and film producer.
By the way, he had Milton Friedman on and just destroyed Donahue.
Milton Friedman is if you haven't read any of his stuff, Milton Friedman would be the modern day patriot, philosopher, sage, if you will, when it comes to...
he's the greatest economist who ever lived.
Right. Capitalism, just absolutely spot on. The guy is incredible. When we went to we're coming back around, folks. I'm not losing it. When we went to the Smithsonian Museum in D.C., they buried Milton Friedman back in the back, and you had to turn around to look, and you couldn't.
I got some of the greatest clips ever, but the shortest one's like 2 minutes and 50 seconds. But make your point.
Okay. Phil Donahue was on MSNBC. They pulled him out and used him. She attempted, which one is it? Stephanie R-U-H-L-E, Rule. Stephanie Rule on MSNBC is crying to Phil Donahue, literally having him on and asking him for sympathy and this whole how could Trump do this and the hate for the fake news. So here's the interview.
The president is right, and everybody else out here is fake media. And everybody in this room is only trying to do...
Okay, the beginning of the clip, they show this unnamed guy, Brian Keenan, who interrupted Sarah Huckabee during the press conference.
The president is right, and everybody else out here is fake media. And everybody in this room is only trying to do their job.
And President Trump tweeted just moments ago, quote, "The Amazon Washington Post, sometimes referred to as the guardian of Amazon not paying internet taxes, parentheses, which they should, is fake news." Well, President Trump, I'd love to see your taxes. Well, you're in luck because I have legendary member of the media with me now, Phil Donahue, the former host of the Phil Donahue Show. Phil, welcome. First, What is your reaction to that exchange that took place in the White House briefing room, a place where one would think respect across the board?
Okay. And we're going to get to the full clip of that soundbite. I forgot that was part of this soundbite. She plays the short clip of this very obscure guy named Brian, who rudely interrupts Sarah Huckabee.
I think he may have actually been a writer for Playboy. But he also was a writer for some political publication that, honestly, I don't even know if I ever heard of. So he was really obscure.
Right, of Prince George's County Sentinel.
Oh my gosh, that's obscure.
And Playboy magazine.
Okay.
George County Sentinel. So that's why I said it was obscure.
So some county, little local paper.
Right. Okay. So he interrupts. So they jam him in there. He's never going back there to the White House, by the way. So they jam him in there. He interrupts this whole thing. MSNBC plays the shortest clip to make it look like he's a defender of the freedom of speech. And so now she's going...
We're just trying to do her job.
Right. So now she's going to Donahue. Donahue, can you believe this?
Well, I think people are welcoming finally a pushback. But this is a two-way street. I don't think the press should get in the mosh pit. I think they have to all be big boys, big girls, and take the hits. Take the hits and hope that we have an audience that understands this, and the people who are beating up Trump, or the people that are getting beat up by Trump, will fall of their own weight. I just think it's a bad thing for the press to get in to the punching game. And by the way, in my experience, there are a lot of people in the press who can't take a punch. Maybe I couldn't either. I don't remember. But I think it's important for you to be above this and keep doing what you're doing. You're not supposed to be popular. You're supposed to tell people often what they don't want to hear. That's your job. And of course, the problem is, if you're not popular, you don't get promoted in the news game, and somebody else will have to feed your kids. It's a tough dilemma for news. In
other words, you got to turn into a cuck.
Somebody else will have to feed your kids.
Is that?
Dude, what does that mean?
It sounds like he's advocating for cucking.
Men who cannot support their families walk away so another man can step in and feed your children.
I don't know what he's talking about, but I don't remember. that was the takeaway from me. Yeah, wow, that's Donahue.
Did you feel how he was not backing her up and actually telling her?
So he pointed out something that was actually. Do you have Mark Dice's a video from that you were telling me about, that they're going to start taking smaller people in the White House press?
Oh no, that was
I saw it earlier this morning. It was from a couple days ago, though. But anyway.
Right, Laura Ingram's radio show, she had Sean Spicer on, and Sean Spicer was telling her, we're allowing...
Mark Dice. Okay.
We're allowing smaller media outlets into the White House, and that would be us, Smith Radio.
Yeah, that's why we're going to be there this week. Okay, so it sounds to me like what he's saying. There's a concept that he's trying to get out here. It's just a philosophy that I agree with 100%. He's saying it's not about going out there and making it about yourself. And it's not about going out there and being personally popular or being popular as an industry. Your job is to tell everybody what happened and be truthful about it. Get the facts out, get the truth out, and let the chips fall where they may. And sometimes you might have to say what people don't want to hear because it's the truth. And I think that's what he was trying to say. So in a way, I kind of agree with all that. And this charlatan that was in the press briefing screaming at the press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, is trying to become a YouTube sensation. And that's one of the things that Spicer said. He said everybody's going in there and they just want to make it about themselves and become the next viral video.
Right. And this dude, Brian, who his career is over in the sense that he will never be back to the White House.
Because he made it about himself, and rightfully so, he shouldn't be back there. It should be about saying what happened. And here's the thing. The press secretary's job is to go out there and say, represent the president, and sometimes that means you got to say certain things in a way that's kind of sugarcoating and all that. So the press is supposed to ask the hard questions to try to get more of the truth out, more detail and all that. And that's not what this guy was doing.
No, he was the entire press was sitting down. We'll get to it in a minute, but he was standing up against the wall so close to her and made a spectacle.
And he screamed it loud enough to make sure that any microphone in the entire room will pick it up so that somebody will make the viral video and I'm going to be famous.
Right. So MSNBC screaming that this is all fake news we're talking about here. All of this is fake news. MSNBC trying to provide cover by bringing Phil Donahue on. And Phil goes a little bit more senile. You ready, Carrie? This is
sure.
MSNBC. She comes back at Phil. Stephanie Rule comes back at Phil like, you didn't give me. This went on for like 7 minutes. But believe me, folks.
Are you kidding me? It went on that long?
I've only got 30 more seconds left.
Oh,
this went on for
7. I can't believe it.
Dude, blood was shooting out of my eyes. I couldn't even hear it.
How did she take it? I mean, come on, 7 minutes?
Not good.
She could have listened to the longest Metallica song ever.
Which is the one that...
I don't know. She could have listened to Master of Puppets.
No, what was the song with the... you put the bird around your neck? The Alabaster.
Oh, that was Iron Maiden.
Oh, okay. That was a long song.
That was... I don't know.
How can you do that when the president is really taking a page from the KGB playbook, fake news media?
The president taking a page from the KGB playbook.
Can somebody go ahead and read that for me? Read off the KGB playbook. What is she talking about?
The KGB apparently has a playbook about fake news.
Oh, she's talking about propaganda.
But literally, KGB invented fake news, according to her.
I mean, they did a damn good job of perfecting. Honestly, I think the KGB got most of their propaganda skills from the Nazis.
From the Nazis, absolutely,
yeah.
Delegitimize the media, and even this idea, the news elite, the liberal elite. Most journalists work really hard for not a lot of money. So this idea, these elitists, that's tough to take.
Well, it is. It is, and I think that the best way to handle this is to just keep working. Don't be so sensitive. Don't look like you have a glass jaw.
What does that mean?
That means you go down with it's a boxing.
She doesn't know what a glass jaw is?
A glass jaw is one who can't take a punch. Goes down with a left jab instead of a right cross.
6 minutes!
I think that the press has to be above that. And all you can do is pray that the people you serve will understand this and appreciate the job that you've got.
How did we get here, though? How did we get to this fake news vortex at a time when there's more media than ever, there is pressure for clicks, and even institutions like the Washington Post and the New York Times are called by the President of the United States the fake news media?
Because you're lying!
Right, and this went on. That was a total of 3. No, it was a total of 3 minutes. That went on twice as long.
How could she say, "How did we get here"? Maybe if you'd stop freaking lying, you wouldn't be there. I'll tell you what. The collusion is scary. How is it that all the major networks have all decided that we're going to run with a news story that we have no evidence for, no substantiation, and not one single news outlet said, guys, I know all y'all who are listening to us now, our audience, I know you guys are hearing from everywhere, all this Russiagate, Russia collusion, Russia hacking, but I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit leery. I'm a little bit skeptical because out of all these leaks that are happening, which they mention on CNN, Project Veritas's undercover videos.
Correct.
How do you have so much? Leak is a very wrong word to use. When you look at Niagara Falls, do you say, wow, that water's kind of leaking over the edge there?
Yes.
You do that? There's a little bit of leak there. There's some water coming over the edge of that cliff. There's some leakage. And it's causing this thing that we know as Niagara Falls.
Yeah, one hell of a waterfall, my man.
So calling it leaking is just a misnomer, flat out. It's not what it is. It is open floodgates, glass walls. You could see through everything. Talk about transparency.
Like a leak would be like in the dam, there's a dike in the dam, and you stick your finger in the dike to stop the leak. I mean, you're not sticking.
This would be like the dam is gone, and somebody's saying, wow, this dam is not doing a very good job anymore. You know why? Because it's gone. It's not even there anymore. All right, so that's what happened to Trump, right? And after all this open leaking, flooding of information in every direction to every news media outlet at the highest level, at the most secret levels, coming from the highest levels of all of our intelligence agencies. You're telling me you didn't raise an eyebrow when after all this time, there's no evidence of Russia collusion, Russiagate, Russian hacking? Let me tell you something about the Russian hacking. If you listen to Rush Limbaugh, the guy's brilliant. The guy is going to get you everything you need to know, and it's true and factual for the most part. But I don't like the way this week and last week Rush was agreeing to the premise that Russia hacked and attempted to meddle in the election.
And the problem with that is that the fake news media is running with that. Well, even Trump said, look, the Russia hacked.
And he did. And I highly disagree with that. If you listen to our December 11th episode called Russia, 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 we had it dead on balls accurate. I wouldn't alter a single word I said in that entire episode. If you haven't heard it a second time, it has aged very well.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard it a first time,
nice agent.
You need to take the time out of your busy day, busy week, whenever. Put the earbuds in and go ahead and take a listen, because you will get the full story from us from December 11th. All of it is 100% accurate. And what we said in that episode was that Russia hacks everything.
Right.
They hacked the DNC servers. Why? Because the DNC servers were hackable. It's kind of like leaving cheese out in the basement when you have a rat problem. You know you have a rat problem.
Yeah.
And to sit there, it would be like finding cheese in your microwave. Melted cheddar cheese in your microwave. Right? Yeah. You got to clean that up.
Yeah.
And you're wondering, who put that cheese in that microwave? And somebody coming up to you and saying, well, you know what? Every time I put cheese in the basement, I see there's bite marks on it that look just like the bite marks from a mouse or a rat. And we know it happens every time.
Right.
And blaming the melted cheese in the microwave on the rat. That's what it's like.
That's insanity.
Here's the point I'm making. You can have hacks of the DNC, of our government servers, of everything in America by Russians. You could have all the proof in the world that happened. That does not mean or even provide any evidence that the information that was taken from the DNC servers that wound up in the hands of Julian Assange came from Russia.
No.
It could have been. And most likely is, based on what we know about Russia and the Soviet Union, that the Russians did hack the DNC servers and they kept it to themselves, because they always do and they always have. They never give away their hard-earned espionage to some foreign civilian entity like Julian Assange. They never do that. What really happened was Russia hacked the servers. Then Seth Rich was a pissed off Bernie Sanders supporter, pissed off because of what the DNC did to Bernie Sanders.
Right.
Decided, I'm going to expose all these crooked people, and I'm going to destroy the Hillary Clinton campaign by exposing all these emails. He took it from a la Snowden. He did just like Snowden did from the intelligence community, and sent it straight to Julian Assange. You don't need Russia to do that.
No.
And that is what you learn from Russia, but in much more detail and in much more clarity. I'm really proud of that episode we did. I'm really, really excited and happy that it has held up. All the details, all the minute details of that episode held up very nicely. And the point is that I don't like that Rush and Trump and any other Trump supporter is going to go ahead and agree with the notion that Russia meddled in our election. Just because they hacked the DNC servers doesn't mean they decided to use it at all.
Right.
Simple as that. And for those of you that say, yeah, well, originally, here's what my original argument was, and we can change that today. Did you hear about the new news about the 17 intelligence agencies that said that they have proof that Russia hacked the election?
Oh, yeah. Mark Levin tweeted that out and said, finally, Democrats are going to be happy. There's proof.
No, that they found out that the 17, that's a lie. Complete lie. That's the argument that the 17 intelligence communities in the U.S. government have proof or evidence that Russia hacked the election. That evidence is completely fake. Sweet. It was a lie.
Yeah.
It was a total lie. The first person I heard it from was Bill Still. You listen to Bill Still.
Bill Still's. Yeah. No, Bill Still on YouTube, still reporting.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And then after Bill Still came out with his report, and I'm not saying that he broke it. Somebody else could have. I don't know. He's the first person I heard it from. You should probably subscribe to Bill Still. He has some great reports. He's like that dry anchorman type person, and he just reads the news. But come to find, he's a very, very strong Trump supporter. But he comes out with it pretty quick. Like if you listen to Bill Still as soon as his stuff comes out, you probably are getting your news quicker and definitely more accurate than you'll ever get from any mainstream media news or even your local newscaster, that's remarkable.
No, and his
he's
stuff,
a citizen journalist.
His stuff is absolutely accurate, and he's just like us.
Well, not totally 100%. He did that one report.
He will tell you, and I'm going to give the caveat to it.
He's a citizen journalist.
He will tell you when there are issues and caveats to the things he's talking about, and he makes no bones about it. If there's something wrong that he says, he'll come back and tell you about it.
Right. That's for the most part. He's actually made some corrections, and that brings me to another point. I hope I'm not getting off on the top on your notes there.
No,
I don't get too far on a tangent, but I do want to address this.
I reposted Russia to Smith Lord's page on Facebook. Go to Facebook and join the group Smith Lords.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do that after the show's over. I want to definitely be a part of that.
Russia, we posted.
So there's that. I want to talk about this because periodically I get people that come on and say, well, what about Mike Cernovich? And he said this, and that was wrong. The 150,000 troops in Syria.
Right.
Turns out that this was a leak that was leaked to Mike Cernovich on purpose. It was false news that was leaked out in order to color the water. For those of you that don't follow Tim Pool, you might not know what coloring the water is. He had a great video where he shows what coloring the water is. And this is coloring the water. He put 4 cups, Dixie cups, on a tray, on top of a paper towel on a tray.
Okay.
The towel was totally wet. And there was water coming out.
Okay.
But there's 4 cups, and you're looking at all 4 cups, and you're like, which one of these cups is leaking?
Okay.
So coloring the water, he took 4 different food colorings, and he put a different drop in each cup, so a different color in each cup. And eventually, the tray turned blue. So now he knows which Dixie cup was leaking. It was the blue one.
Right. So when you say coloring the water, Trump is coloring the water to find the leak.
Right. So when it was released that 150,000 troops were being put in Syria, it was the Trump administration's attempt to color the water. So when Mike Cernovich covered it, whoever told him that information from within the Trump circle, they knew now that was a leaker. That's what happened. So Mike Cernovich, he reports something fake, and people are blasting all over him about that. There's examples. I don't have them all lined up here, but citizen journalists are amateurs, okay? We're all amateurs because we're new. I mean, I like to think of us as professional. We're trying our hardest to be as professional as possible. But, we're all learning, and we're all getting better as we go. And in the meantime, in the course of trying to navigate our way through this journalism thing, this citizen journalism thing, we're going to make mistakes. Bill Still made a huge mistake when he covered Bill Mitchell's feud with some guy. I don't even remember who he was. It was some guy from New Zealand who was claiming to be a Trump supporter. There was this huge feud back and forth. Bill Still called up the guy from New Zealand, and the guy was a total con artist and convinced Bill Still that everything that he said was accurate, which was not accurate. And Bill Still, and so Bill Still came out with this big report that was not accurate. It was his only report that I've ever seen that was inaccurate. He's come out with like over 1,000 reports since he started.
Right.
One's inaccurate. That's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
That's not bad. We all make mistakes. I had this when we were at the New Media Gala. A friend of what's his name? I can't remember his name, but he's a guy that left Breitbart because they had a falling out or whatever. He was bitching and complaining about the citizen journalists and how they need to do what he does and all this stuff, and he's mad about people reporting this and that and the other thing. And I gave him the lecture that, look, we're all citizen journalists. We're trying to do this because the mainstream media is not. We're going to make mistakes. The key is that the people who are doing this and that do make mistakes, they learn from their mistakes and they move on and they try to be better. And that everybody else that identifies, oh, Brian made a mistake, or Bill Still, ooh, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Just be a little bit forgiving. You got to be a little bit forgiving. And the reason I want to bring this up is because I got this DM. I got a DM on Twitter from somebody that's trying to blast on these different factions of Trump supporters who are in citizen journalism who have disagreements. And it sounded like they were trying to drag me into this, whose side are you on?
Oh, man.
And I'm just like, no. I am not playing that game at all. We need to change this narrative from it being this soap opera. It's not about us.
No.
It's not about Cernovich. It's not about Bill Mitchell. It's not about Paul Joseph Watson. It's not about any of these people. And I'm going to be honest with you, if there's some people within this circle of new media, truth-telling, whatever, that start to make it about themselves, then, we need to have a talk. And that's fine.
Right.
And you know what? They might agree with that and say, you know what, you're right. I'm going to be a little bit more humble and not try to make it about me. That may actually happen, and that's fine, and that's great. But we need to stop having these followers that just, oh my gosh, they want the drama. They're bored. They're not having any impact on anything in their life. And they feel like if I can get this person to start dumping on this other person that's in new media, that I can go around and tell people that I did that, I contributed to that. That's sad. That's counterproductive.
That's super sad, yeah.
And you are a detriment to everything. We're trying to make America great again. And people that behave like that are putting the brakes on those of us who are trying to make America great again. And make sure that you like this, share this, and donate to the Patreon, and encourage your friends and family to donate to the Patreon too, because we are doing this on our own dime right now, and we will continue. If we get enough money to where we're like, oh, we're kind of building an account here, that will be put into making this show better, getting us on location. Right now we have a White House correspondent in D.C. It'd be nice if we could join her sometimes, but that kind of traveling costs money. I just found out.
It's 8 hours one way.
Well, yeah, and I just found out that there's this big meetup of some sort. I just found out today in Atlanta.
Oh, Georgia.
Yeah, but that's like further than 8 hours away. Atlanta's
good trip.
Maybe 10, 11 hours.
It's a good trip. But if you go really fast, we're traveling south, we can pick up some speed.
Okay.
It just takes longer coming back.
Well,
because we're going uphill.
Well, no, the centripetal force of the Earth rotation could actually pull us out to Georgia.
Okay, a little bit faster.
A little bit faster, right. We'll just put it in neutral. We should get there all the way.
I just want to, now that you kind of were talking about that, I want to make an apology to the gentleman I spoke to last night.
Did you do a blast on somebody?
No, I called out Franklin County in Ohio, near Middletown, Ohio, as possibly being, it's not, I was wrong. Don't look for Franklin County.
I was going to say Franklin's in Indiana.
Don't look for it because I was wrong. But I called it out this week. It made news near Middletown, Ohio, that it will become per capita the #1 city for opiate overdose in all of America.
Ouch.
Sorry, it wasn't Franklin County. I apologize, my friend. It was Montgomery County. However, the story was still correct and it was still Middletown. Anywho, I digress. I'll tell you what, we're coming up on... I know I promised in the second hour. Are we there yet now?
Yes, we're in the second hour.
We are in the second hour.
We're getting close to halftime here.
I'll tell you what, we're in the second hour right now. Let's take a break from the new news media exposing the fake news media, and let me go into the tribute that I wanted to go into for the 4th of July. The 4th of July is really special to most Americans. It truly is, especially if you know anything about the 4th of July. It is it's a time where we get together with our family and our friends, and we light off fireworks, and we have some drinks and have some fun. But please teach your children, please talk to your children about what the 4th of July is. And this story...
It's all about big fireworks.
The bigger the better, the louder the noisier. Now, this is a YouTube video. It's the Star Spangled Banner You Never Heard.
Really?
This is narrated and very, very well done. It's about Francis Scott Keyes and the story behind him writing the Star Spangled Banner. It's a few minutes long, but this is the tribute. I want you all to grasp. It's that important. Listen closely, and I feel that you'll be as riveted as I was when I first listened to it. 4th of July, 2017, 241 years.
Okay.
241 years.
Wow.
So
we're almost a quarter of a millennia old.
Right. So if God blesses us, we will be around for another 9 years to celebrate the 250th.
Quarter millennia. That'd be so awesome.
Can you imagine? Wow.
We're getting close to Roman timeline here. Rome.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
All right.
There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the national anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child, but we've never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you a story. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict with the mother country, Britain. Because of this conflict and the protractedness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners. They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore. And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day, in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men. And he said, men, I've got news for you tonight. You're free. He said, tonight I have negotiated successfully your return to the colonies. He said, you'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains. As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean? He said, well, Mr. Key, he said, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of, or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry? He said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth. He said, how are you going to do that? He said, if you will, scan the horizon of the sea. And as he looked, he could see hundreds of little dots. And he said, that's the entire British war fleet. He said, all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. It will be here within striking distance in a matter of about 2.5 hours. He said, the war is over. These men would be free anyway. He said, you can't shell that fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He says, it's predominantly not a military fort. He said, don't worry about it. They said, we've left them a way out. And he said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop immediately. And we'll know that they've surrendered, and you'll now be under British rule. Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen. And they said, how many ships? He said, hundreds. The ships got closer. Francis Scott Key went back up on top and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, and as the haze hung over the ocean as it does at sunset, suddenly the British war fleet unleashed. He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit. And he says from down below, all he could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, tell us where the flag is. What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling, every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb. And Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, it's still up. It's not down. The admiral came and he said, your people are insane. He said, what's the matter with them? He said, don't they understand this is an impossible situation? Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said the thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live on his knees. The admiral said, we have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down. He said, we don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that. But he said, now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point. Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful. All that he could hear was the men down below praying. The prayer, God, keep that flag flying where we last saw it. Sunrise came. He said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened. And what he'd found had happened was that that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits. And when it had fallen, but men, fathers, who knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground, although knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up humanly until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place. Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. He penned the song, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Or the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet fly and wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The debt was demanded. The price, it was paid.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave
you're listening to Smith Radio. Brian Smith and Carrie Smith telling you about all the information, all the news from last week, wrapping it all up. That was on YouTube. I put the direct link to that video on YouTube and the real story behind the Star Spangled Banner. I ran into that last year. It's got about 5 million hits. I ran into it last year and I found it absolutely amazing. I started to dig more into the history behind Francis Scott Key and his situation and the fact that he witnessed history in the making and wrote about it when he was there. It's an emotional time. Something about the American psyche that you will never find anywhere in the world, and that is we all share that same frame of mind, that freedom where we want to live our lives. The government serves us. We don't serve a government. That's never happened in all of human history. There was during the Revolutionary War, George Washington used the help of a former Russian general who was let go from his position based on the possibility he might have had an alternative lifestyle they didn't like. But George Washington brought him on board because he was a general and he knew military conflict, and he was hoping that this Russian general could help get his guys, his rag-tattered band back on their feet again, and maybe help him to win the war. Well, long story short, the Russian general had issues and had problems and here and there, and something that he figured out, that he wrote about, that really puts the American psyche in a nutshell, is that he found that when he would tell soldiers what to do in America, if he could explain to them the importance of why to do it, when he was not there and he was missing and, gone, he wasn't there over their shoulder, they would continue to do it again and again and again without being told to do it again. They knew the reason why. Throughout Europe and throughout his time as a military general, he found that he had to tell other military personnel what to do, and then he had to have somebody stand guard to make sure they continued to do it, whether you told them why they had to do it or not.
Force them at gunpoint.
Yeah, force them. So it's the American psyche that is completely different. Here on Smith Radio, this is what we love to do. We've been doing this, Carrie and I, we've been talking on the phone for probably the last 10, 11, 12 years. We've been doing Smith Radio. We are in our 4th year now. We started doing this out of the hopes to keep our sanity. There was no other. We wanted to keep a record of the information going on. We wanted to keep a record of our conversations that we were having on a nightly basis for hours and hours on end, for our children, for maybe the possibility other people want to hear it. 4 years into this thing, we've gotten pretty polished. I went back and listened to one of our earliest shows, and I was like, wow. But it's what happens. It's what it is. We've gotten practice. I've gotten better.
Good at banter and also not being so nervous and being a little bit more relaxed and polished.
So when I walk out of the room, Carrie doesn't freak anymore.
Oh, my gosh. The only way I could banter is if my brain had to know that there was somebody physically there for me to talk to. I'd be fine on the phone, and I'd be fine if Brian is sitting right here next to me. But if he walked out of the room, it was like, I'm supposed to talk, and it was bad. It was really bad.
No, but it's good time. So we've gotten to the point to where this is absolutely something that we will continue to do. This is something that, I know Rush says it all the time. I was born to do this. You ask our friends and our family. I believe we were born to do this. We do this.
That's what my sister said. I was shocked because I didn't. I mean, if you look at my entire life, all the things that I was interested in, all the things that I wanted to do, all the skills, gifts from God, if you will, whatever, this didn't dawn on me. And then I did an interview with Gary Byrne and let my family hear it, shared it with the family.
Correct.
And they were like, oh my God, stop I don't know if it was my mom or my sister said, stop everything you're doing and just focus on that. And I'm like, what? I was shocked.
And I'll tell you, over the years with the library of sound clips and the the habit of doing the same thing over and over again. It's gotten easier. It's not as hard to find sound clips. We got the internet. We've got all kinds of other folks that send us stuff.
20 years ago?
No, we couldn't have.
Impossible.
We couldn't have. So it's a blessing to be able to do this. We love doing this for you. We love the fact that you're there every week and throughout the week listening to the show. So please share, reshare. Have a safe and happy 4th of July coming up here on Tuesday before the festivities begin. Maybe silently or with your family. Say a prayer for America. Say a prayer as I usually do when we have dinner. Seemed kind of weird at first, but I would say a prayer for Trump and Trump's family and his safety. It doesn't seem weird anymore. I do it all the time. I never want anything to happen to Obama or Hillary or anybody else either, so it's not like I'm picking Trump to be safe. I wish all our presidents to be safe regardless of who they are. Don't need that kind of stuff. So as I digress, did you hear about Sean Spicer? He was doing a little press. This is Sean Spicer.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Mr. Spicer.
Be glad to take your questions. One at a time. Cecilia.
Can I feed the fish today? No, it's my day.
Major, hold on. Hey, Major. Cecilia's asking a question. That doesn't mean you get to jump in.
Last week was boy.
Glenn, I'm actually asking Cecilia's question if you could be as polite as not to interrupt. Julie.
When are we going to learn about Russia? I heard Russia was the biggest
Jonathan,
country in
hold
the
on.
world.
Can you stop interrupting other people's
But
questions?
you never let us talk about Russia.
Okay, Jonathan, somebody's asking a question. It's not your press briefing.
Huh?
Julie's asking a question. Please calm down. Julie.
When are we going to learn about Russia? The pee-pee tape.
Brian, you essentially what Jonathan does. That doesn't mean you get...
Somebody did that redo on YouTube. It is...
No, it came from Jimmy Kimmel.
Did it come from Kimmel?
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel did it, and here's the funny thing.
I got it on the tube. So
yeah, so he is a big time anti-Trump hater, all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
I think that he stupidly thought that was he was blasting all over Spicer, all over Trump, and the joke's on him. He is literally portraying the media as children.
Yes.
And I know what he was trying to do. He's trying to show that Spicer is unable to control the situation that he's in a press conference because he's treating all of them like children.
Right.
But he's treating everybody. Everybody sees the message that he has to treat them that way because they're acting like children.
Right.
They behave like children. They're immature. They are... They're children. I don't know how else to say it.
So it's jumping right into Sarah Huckabee, who steps in for Spicy.
She's like that teacher that she could have the most unruly class ever, she just handles it. She's like, I got this.
Some women just have that ability. Even when it gets out of control, she's not right. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there. I've seen her. I've watched her visually. Sarah Huckabee might not be a beauty pageant queen. However, I know SNL and some of the jokesters love to make fun of all women who are conservative.
It's all about looks for them.
Yes, cracking on conservative, intelligent, strong women because, and I'm going to throw this out, Greta Van Susteren.
Yeah.
They ripped on her. She has had multiple plastic surgeries.
Has she?
Yes.
Why? She is the quintessential, like, hey, I had to get here with substance because I ain't getting there with looks.
Right.
That she's the quintessential. But let me add to that, James Okeef, his undercover tapes, the one guy said that Kellyanne Conway looked like she got hit with a shovel. So it's all about looks with the left.
Right. But that's okay. That's okay. So here's the infamous Sarah Huckabee at the press conference on Tuesday. She's speaking with a guy sitting down. He's asking a question. It's a little bit low, but then it'll bring back up when she speaks, and then you see how it just goes off the rails.
Charlie. Recently, Breitbart News challenged the accuracy of the CNN story, and afterwards it was retracted, deleted, and the editors responsible were fired, as well as the network apologized for the story. One of the targets of the story accepts the apology. The president went on Twitter this morning and repeated that CNN was fake news. Why isn't their response good enough for the president?
Okay, so the whole premise of his question was CNN put out a fake hit piece. It was a blatant fake hit piece, so awful it had to be retracted
because Breitbart called him out.
Right. 3 people were fired or quit or whatever.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, here's what you mean. Do we have time for me to explain that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the 3 people who resigned, may have been asked to resign, fired, whatever. This is how it works. Everybody knows after listening to the James Okeef tapes this week that CNN was not just fake news, but that was actually their mission statement. It was to produce and create and disseminate fake news.
Propaganda.
Flat out.
Propaganda.
Make it up.
Yeah.
And they're all on board with it. So the quote-unquote firing of these people was kind of like, okay, guys, in order to make this look like we could save face a little bit here, we're going to have to ask you to leave, but we're going to pay you for it. I guarantee you loads of money was paid to them because they didn't want to fire them. They didn't want to make it look like they're firing. They didn't want to ask them to leave, and especially they didn't want to ask them to leave knowing that they could come out and say, we didn't want to leave, but we were asked to leave because it was for them to save face over the fact that they have been telling us to produce fake news. So that's the truth about it. The truth of the matter is they were paid to go away as a tactical move to save their credibility, which it didn't work. They shouldn't have done it. It happened several days before the first James Okeef tape came out. If they had known that was going to come out, they wouldn't have had to ask those people to leave. They could have just did the WWF thing. By the way, for those of you that want to know, don't want to get off on a tangent here, the WWF theory. People were asking me, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to CNN? How are they going to react to this? And people were speculating that CNN was going to have to go real. They were going to have to come out and they're going to have to change around, do everything different. And now we're going to have real news. They're going to have to fire a bunch of people and they're going to have to apologize. They're going to have to retract a bunch of things. And I said, nope. I guarantee you they're going to go WWF. And what WWF was, when I was a kid, WWE was called WWF. So when you hear me say WWF, I mean WWE. When I was a kid, everybody knew that was real professional wrestling. It was real.
Right, that was real.
And then all of a sudden, somebody came out exposing, the whole Santa Claus thing, that WWE, or WWF at the time, was fake. And all these people were acting. Right. In fact, my dad said, those guys that are all hating on each other and killing each other in the ring, they go out and have beer together afterwards. And I was outraged. I couldn't believe that he would dare say something like that. Because clearly this is... And then guess what? I found out it really is fake. It's not real. Pro wrestling is not real.
No.
So my question to you is, what do you think WWF did about it? Do you think they came out and said, yeah, we're getting rid of all of our wrestlers and we're going to replace them with real wrestlers and we're going to have real bouts with real winners and real losers and everything's going to be on the up and up and we're going to be real? No. They acted like they were never outed. They just kept on going. Fast forward 25 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later, it's the same thing.
It is the same damn thing. Only the names have changed to protect the innocents.
So my point is CNN, my prediction is they're going to go WWF. They're going to act like nothing happened.
They got to. They've got nothing else. They've got to.
It's too hard for them to say, yeah, we've been fake all this time, and we're going to change everything around, and we're going to be real again. They went too far.
Oh, yeah, they went way too far. Well, the earlier clip that we played with Phil Donahue on the show, it was MSNBC, but they were coming to the aid of CNN and fake news, and they were still going all out. Everybody's going all out.
They're going straight. So here's the point, though. If they go WWF, Or WWE.
Well, they're WWE and they just changed the E to an F.
Or vice versa.
Right.
If they go that route, then they are forever discredited for eternity. Doesn't matter what they report on.
In your mind or in real world time? Real world?
Well, we can be real by saying that, oh, it came from them. The first, your gut initial reaction, if it comes from CNN, is that it's fake. Same thing with Tim Pool saying, I will no longer use the Washington Post as a source. And I'll give you a little background on that. So James Okeef came out with his videos, and the Washington Post reported something that wasn't true. The Washington Post came out with an article that said, well, James Okeef is not very accurate. He did not put into his videos that this producer from tape number 1,
right,
the first hidden tape, was not from D.C. or New York or any of these places, that he was from Atlanta. Well, guess what? James Okeef was like, wait, I thought I did. Let me rewind that tape and look again. So he looked, and then all of his followers looked, and then everybody who was curious looked, and right there in the tape, nothing changed. Tape says that this producer was from Atlanta, and he was in Atlanta. In the tape. So James Okeef came out with a tape, videotaping himself, calling the author of the Washington Post article.
Right.
Put him on speakerphone. This is all recorded. And said, hey, you made an article that was inaccurate. You said that I didn't say that the guy was from Atlanta. The guy was from Atlanta, and I said it, so that was inaccurate. Will you change that? Will you retract that? And he said, anything that's inaccurate or false, I will definitely, this is false. I'll look into it, and I'll retract it if it's false. Well, can you look at it now? And he's like, I'm busy right now, but I'll get to it.
I'm eating a ham sandwich.
I'm right in the middle. I'm halfway through my mac and cheese or whatever. So, So he said, I'll get to it real soon. He's like later on today in a couple hours. I mean, this needs to be addressed. Tim Pool came out with a video reporting on this whole drama. And he said 2 days after that took place, he went back to the original Washington Post article, Tim Pool did, and noticed that there was no retraction and that the thing said the same false statement that Tim Pool could verify, absolutely false. And so he said, what are we supposed to do here? He said, I can't use Washington Post as a source anymore.
No.
Boom, just like that. No. Just like that, Tim Pool is like, I'm not sourcing them at all anymore for nothing. He said, anything that Washington Post comes out right now, I have to get a second source now.
Right. So, okay. So we're listening to
something. We're halfway through a
Sanders.
Yeah.
Huckabee. We're listening to Huckabee. Sarah Huckabee, and she's doing the White House briefing. The guy asking her the question. Okay, CNN reported fake news. They retracted the fake news. The guys were fired.
Right.
What do they have to do to get Mr. Trump to accept
that they're not fake news?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So this
probably
is
nothing.
Not on that, but check this out. Sarah alludes to James O'Keefe's videos.
Yeah,
this is Tuesday afternoon.
Yes,
and
she does.
She alludes to the videos and the information floating out and advises the entire Americas to view them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Go look, my friends. So here's Sarah.
I don't know that it's that the response isn't good enough for the president. I think it's the constant barrage of fake news directed at this president probably that has garnered a lot of his frustration. You point to that report. There are multiple other instances where that outlet that you referenced has been repeatedly wrong and had to point that out or be corrected. There's a video circulating now, whether it's accurate or not. I don't know, but I would encourage everybody in this room and, frankly, everybody across the country to take a look at it. I think if it is accurate, I think it's a disgrace to all of media, to all of journalism. I think that we have gone to a place where if the media can't be trusted to report the news, then that's a dangerous place for America. And I think if that is the place that certain outlets are going, particularly for the purpose of spiking ratings, and if that's coming directly from the top, I think that's even more scary and certainly more disgraceful. And I hope that that's not the direction we're headed. I hope that outlets that have continued to use either unnamed sources, sometimes stories with no sources at all. We've been going on this Russia-Trump hoax for the better part of a year now with no evidence of anything. Things like the success at the VA barely get covered. They may get covered for an hour at a time, but this story gets covered day in, day out. And I think America is frankly looking for something better. They're looking for something more. And I think they deserve something better from our news media.
Does the president actually expect...
I'm sorry?
Okay, just before he... So she's laying out the fake news that's so fake. She's laying out the James Okeef videos. This is Sarah Huckabee in the news briefing on Tuesday, just obliterating CNN and all the fake news and explaining to them exactly why there's such fake news. We have a guest on the line, but if we could just hold on 1 minute, let me wrap up this soundbite with this knucklehead Brian who jumps in.
The Playboy, the columnist from Playboy or something like that.
Brian,
he wants to be a YouTube star.
He wants to be a YouTube star. Brian Kareem, Prince George's County Sentinel and Playboy magazine, and he appeared to incense the press secretary. So here's how he's not even involved in this, and he gets nuts.
Actually expect us not to report on stories of a foreign country trying to influence the presidential election?
I don't think it's that it's expected that you're not to report on news if there's something there. But again, I think that there are a lot of things happening in this world that frankly a lot of people would like to hear about, whether it's job growth, whether it's deregulation, whether it's tax reform, health care. I think a lot of those things deserve a lot more coverage than they get. And all we're saying is, I think that we should take a really good look at what we are focused on, what we are covering, and making sure that it's actually accurate and it's honest. If we make the slightest mistake, the slightest word is off, it is just an absolute tirade from a lot of people in this room. But news outlets get to go on day after day and cite unnamed sources, use stories without sources, have, you mentioned the Scaramucci story where they had to have reporters resign.
Come on. You're inflaming everybody right here, right now with those words. This administration has done that as well. Why in the name of heavens? Any one of us, right, are replaceable, and any one of us, if we don't get it right, the audience has the opportunity to turn the channel or not read us. You have been elected to serve for 4 years at least. There's no option other than that. We're here to ask you questions.
Right.
We're here to provide the answers. And what you just did is inflammatory to people all over the country who look at it and say, see, once again, the president is right and everybody else out here is fake media.
That's
and everybody in this room is only trying to do their job.
Well, I disagree completely. First of all, I think if anything has been inflamed, it's the dishonesty that often takes place by the news media. And I think it is outrageous for you to accuse me of inflaming a story when I was simply trying to respond to his question.
Boom. That is the part you will not hear. CNN, MSNBC, the comeback that Sarah Huckabee had, so calm, so calculated.
She's cool as a cucumber.
Shoved old boy back in his hole. And speaking about the White House press briefing and being at the White House, we have our first and special occasion, Shallon. Can you hear me, Shallon? Shallon Gorman?
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you guys?
Sound like you're in a, I wonder if we have the, Can you hear me again? Oh, hold on a second.
How about now? How's that?
Trying to get the sound just right. It's a little bit. All right, you there?
Yes. Do I sound like I'm in an aquarium?
It sounds like you're in a locker room.
Yeah.
That's all right.
We'll do it just real quick. Shallon, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for dedicating your time freely to doing all the legwork that it needed to be done to get press credentials to be at the White House. You live in D.C., correct?
No, I'm with Real News. I'm with Smith Radio. I'm so excited.
Smith Radio, awesome. Man, I wish we could get better sound out of this, but yeah, you do sound a little bit muffled there, but we're working on it.
Okay.
Oh, there's a little louder. Yeah, it sounded pretty quiet. All right, so what do you ready to go? You ready? I mean, this is exciting. I'm actually jealous. I'm gonna be honest with you. I want to be there. I want to be able to go through the gate and get all the way up to the White House. And it sounds like what you're gonna be doing, right?
Yes, it seems so surreal to me. It's a dream come true, and hopefully I'll be at the White House in a press briefing this week.
Yeah, you're going to have to take lots of pictures and maybe cast onto Periscope and all that kind of stuff.
Be careful. I just want to give you a heads up. Just be careful. If Spicy or
Sarah
are having a no video meeting kind of thing, MSNBC and CNN has already told their shills to go ahead and Periscope.
Oh, really?
So don't do it. Because I'd be afraid if Spicy says no video. I mean, it is what it is.
I don't know if, can he really stop him? He could walk out. He could say, well, I was going to have a press conference with no video, and now I see you guys are videoing when I asked you not to, so we'll continue this tomorrow. Bye.
Yeah, he sure could.
I mean, he could do that, right? No, but I will tell you this. I'm going to tell you a little story that it's a learning experience. We had a local thing where a state representative came in to Cincinnati and whoa, what are you doing? Oh, Brian's making a mess over here. All right, you still there, Shallon?
Yes, I am here.
So there was this local thing where we had state representatives come in and address the fact that Cincinnati was named a sanctuary city by our mayor, and so it kind of made national news a little bit. And we had Josh Mandel come in and actually do, I guess it was a press conference. And so we're all in there, and they have all the seats all set up, and of course all the local media was there. And I busted out my camera to do a Periscope. Well, the local media had these $15,000 cameras set up on $5,000 tripods, and they had their guys with the microphones and everything. And the guy that organized it proceeded to tell us all that we are not to use any recording devices. And I was like, my first thought was, I don't want to break any rules. I don't want to get kicked out of here. Well, it turns out when it comes to government public stuff, the Constitution applies at all times. He actually was just hoping that we would listen to him. And so I started casting anyway. My first thought was, I better not. And then I started looking around. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not going to take this crap from them. And so I busted out with the Periscope and started Periscoping anyway. And guess what? Nobody said a word to me.
Right.
It was that initial, we would ask you not to record thing. It was almost like he was trying to get it so that the main top three had the exclusive. And they're not legally allowed to kick you out for that. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. So I Periscoped it anyway. So I would say don't let them bully you. Don't let them bully you.
I'm going to try to not get kicked out our first week.
Right. I would definitely recommend.
But we're not fake news, so
yeah, you shouldn't have to put up with
any animus against us.
Yeah, I mean that's the main thing. We're not fake news, so there should be a little bit of friendliness there, I hope. I assume that as long as you're professional and you don't do the things that are totally not allowed. Like I remember I heard somebody say, well, I didn't cuss and I didn't raise my voice. So I'm assuming that those are like,
wow,
that's like the bare bones minimum. That's the bar that's set. So, but of course, we know that some people are having trouble getting press passes again. So,
right. So folks that are listening right now, we're talking with Shallon Gorman. She is our new and White House correspondent in D.C. for Smith Radio. She will be periscoping. We're going to set her up to where she can periscope, and it'll go through Smith Radio at Smith Radio on Twitter.
Cool. Awesome.
Follow Shallon. Absolutely follow her at The Real Shallon, Shallen, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome.
Awesome. So I'm so happy and so excited to have you on board to be a part of the team. I know for those of you that are listening, we're going to be unfolding some new things coming in the future, some more articles written, a blog attached to the site, smithradio.com. If you don't follow Smith Radio on Twitter, please do, obviously. And then my handle on Smith Radio is Brian P. Smith on the Twitter as well. Is there anything that you have on your mind? Oh, questions. What about questions?
Do you have
for
anything?
Shallon?
Do you have anything lined up, or do we got to send you something, or what do you want?
Oh, yes. I would love question suggestions.
So you hear that, folks?
You get the opportunity.
Yes, please send us suggestions for questions. I'm going to come up with something to send out something, but I would like for the questions that I come up with or Brian comes up with to be based on some suggestions from some of our listeners, some of our followers on Twitter. So be thinking about some good questions. Or if there's just a subject you're interested in that we could turn it into a question for Shallon, that would be awesome too. So,
and that's something that Shallon and I talked about earlier today, that if you're thinking about a question, think about a subject, if you will, and we can use that to throw out a question to help Spicy segue into a topic that hasn't been talked about yet. For instance, if it has to do with the VA and the VA reform of the VA that nobody wants to report on, obviously we can throw that out there. Hey,
because they want to talk about that.
And then Spicer points to Shallon. She says, this Shallon is Smith Radio, Military Veteran Talk Radio. We just we like the avenue that you were going. You're going with the VA reform. Are there any new details that you can kind of give us on that?
Right.
That would be a great segue for him.
Yeah. Well, we'll come up with something very detailed. You could even read it. That's another thing. You don't have to be like this big star where they're like, all right, I'm a method actor, so I got to do the rubber baby buggy bumpers and then read it as if it was coming straight out of your head. I've seen people at these press gaggles look down at their notes or look down at their smartphone and literally read word for word off of their phone or off of their notes their questions. So it doesn't have to be that complicated. They'll be fine. It's not like they'll be like, oh gosh, I'm not going to call on her because she can't even articulate the question without reading it. So it's not that special. And there's also a chance that you don't get called on at all. But Brian pointed out, I was actually going to say this to you, Shallon. I was going to say, you know what? Don't get your hopes up because nobody we know ever gets called on. But Brian pointed out that just this week, Spicer was telling Laura Ingraham that they're giving more access to more smaller news groups or news outfits and stuff like that. And he may look right at you and say, I've never seen her before. I'm going to call on her.
And she's cute.
Oh, there you go.
Well, I appreciate that.
There you go.
I think our sound came through. Well, I think you did.
I fixed it.
Okay. She's coming in real good now.
I had the sound effects on and I fixed it. So we're good now.
Go ahead, Shallon.
Well, I have one caveat with our list. No questions about Russia.
Yeah, no, the only way I would bring up a question about Russia is if it was a perfect opportunity for him to blast all over these news outlets for being fake. The only thing I could think of bringing up with regards to Russia is, this week, or last week, it'd be last week. Last week, James Okeef of Project Veritas came out with these undercover videos that exposed CNN of pushing the Russiagate story just for ratings. But doesn't that also mean that anybody pushing the Russiagate story at all is also doing it just for ratings? And doesn't that make them fake news too? Why are we just singling out CNN? Don't you want to single out MSNBC? Give them a chance to just blast all over them.
Dude, I don't think she can do. I don't know if you want to go down that road.
No, and I'll tell you this too, Shallon. Before Mike Cernovich went, he he mentioned an idea for a question that he wanted to ask Spicer. And I actually sent him a message saying I wouldn't recommend that question because it was a question that set up Spicer to blast all over the media. And the thing, wow, nice. The problem is we're talking about the executive branch. We want to know what the executive branch is doing. And Spicer is the spokesperson for the head of the executive branch. So they want to answer questions on what the executive branch is doing. They shouldn't have to answer questions about what the media is doing. They're not in charge of the media. They're not in charge of all those people. So yeah, I mean, it should probably be more appropriate to ask them about what the executive branch is doing.
And we're talking with Shalyn Gorman, who is the
White House
correspondent for Smith Radio. She's on Twitter at @TheRealShalyn, SHALLEN. Do you have DMs on? Can people direct message you, Shalyn? Is that cool?
Yes, they can.
Awesome. I would highly recommend that. Send question ideas to her. Send them to us, and what I would like to do is be able to see what everybody wants to ask, and then try to formulate one or two questions based on that. I will definitely have a couple of questions because somebody might ask a question that's so similar to one that you already have ready to go that you'll have to go to an alternative question.
Right. So you want to throw out there real quick, kind of talk about yourself and maybe your background, a little bit about you, Shalyn, for the folks that are listening?
Yeah, sure. I'm an attorney. I live in the D.C. area, and I'm originally from Arkansas.
Ooh, wow.
And I have to give a shout-out to Sarah Sanders in that clip. I thought she was braced under fire.
Yes.
And it was right of her to point out about fake news in the administration when the New York Times is bearing retractions by their crossword puzzles. So how else is the public supposed to know about the fake news?
Yeah. Definitely. Is that like? So you're a big fan of Sarah Huckabee Sanders, then?
And
I am.
I
think she's handled her stuff really well.
And I think you're a couple degrees of separation from her too, as well, aren't you? Like you know somebody that knows her.
Yes, I have a good friend in law school who went to college with her.
Oh, you have a friend,
and I actually have met her brother.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's pretty awesome. The 6 degrees of separation has turned into 2 degrees of separation.
Yeah, we're not too far, folks. We're definitely not too far.
Right.
Well, that's so exciting. I'm really glad. Once again, we've been talking about this. Carrie and I have been talking about it all weekend. We are really excited. I know it's just a small thing. It's small steps. It's these baby steps that we keep taking over the past 4 years that have gotten us to this point. I know that you listen to the show, and hopefully the folks that are listening now will be able to follow you on Twitter, listen to the commentaries that you're going to have that you'll be able to bring to the show. We'll have a segment for you when you come on and talk for a little bit on Sunday evenings, and then throughout the week.
Yeah, if we have anything from you during the week, we'll break right in. We can do a little segment at any time, so we'll definitely do that.
Okay, great. I definitely have plans about things I would like to cover in the next couple of weeks.
All right, excellent. You have a good night. Get plenty of rest.
Yes.
Put the cucumber slices over your eyes. You know,
so you could be as cool as a cucumber, like Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Definitely.
Good. Yes, that's the goal.
All right, awesome. Right. Good times. Have a good night, Shalyn, and we will talk to you soon, very soon, and then we'll get back to the listeners.
Okay. Bye, guys.
All right, bye.
Wow, that is so awesome, guys. Man, I am really fired. That's one sharp cookie right there. She's a very sharp millennial at that. I mean, she's early.
I don't want to guess her age, but she didn't look very old.
No, I'm almost positive. She's younger than my wife, so it'd make her a millennial.
If she's a Generation Xer, she's like right on the trail edge.
Can't possibly be.
Yeah, it'd be like trail edge type.
Right. So, but it's really cool to be able to find the millennials that are, a cut above, that really have their head on their shoulders, know what they're talking about, patriots, and are willing. Because when they see other millennials, they'll be more likely to listen to them than they would be to some older Gen X guys.
I wonder if is is Spicer out?
No.
So it could be either or.
Yeah, it's back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a stand-in. I guess maybe it's summertime and Spicer needs a little spicy.
He's too spicy for this hot weather.
As SNL likes to say, spicy needs his nappy pie.
They say that?
They say that regularly.
That's so sad.
Spicy needs his nappy pie.
Anyway.
So as we continue to move on, we just wrapped up Sarah Huckabee and that White House briefing that she had where that idiot Brian jumped in on it and just made a fool of himself. Then you've got MSNBC, Joy Reid. This is the problem I'm having, folks, with the fake media, the fake news. They're absolutely biased. 90% negative reporting on the president. And in one of the videos that James Okeef put out said that 16,000 times Russia was used in the news media outlet. So it's fake, Russia. This is how Joy Reid opened up. She played the clip from that guy, Brian, just to make it sound like, you know, how tough and how hard he was to defend the First Amendment. And we got Joy Reid on the Twitter. And she comes out with her little opening monologue. Joy, this is why you are fake propaganda news, because of the words that are coming out of your mouth.
News outlets get to go on day after day and cite unnamed sources, use stories without sources, have, you mentioned the Scaramucci story where they had to have reporters resign.
We're here to ask you questions. Right. We're here to provide the answers. And what you just did is inflammatory to people all over the country who look at it and say, see, once again, the president's right and everybody else out here is fake media. And everybody in this room is only trying to do their job.
And the Congregation of Political Watchers said, amen, hallelujah. After months of the press being battered and bullied from the podium in the White House press room, reporter Brian Karem pushed back. Karem confronted Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders after she took time during the briefing for the kind of whining, press-bashing comments that have become standard fare from Donald Trump and the people who speak for him. But perhaps adding to Karem's frustration, that time was more precious at Tuesday's briefing because it was one of the dwindling opportunities to hold this administration to account in a live on-camera broadcast. Last week, the White House banned cameras from the daily briefing 3 times, prompting CNN to go so far as to send a sketch artist to capture the scene in the room. And they kept most of the briefings off camera again this week, allowing a live broadcast on only 2 days. So Karem's stand this week came amid mounting pressure on the press to do something, anything, to defend its role as the watchdog over transparency and accountability in the White House. There are so many options. Boycott the briefings, turn a camera on and see what happens, whip out your cell phone and live stream, or continue to do what we've been doing, which is basically nothing, and following their rules like we're covering a perfectly normal presidency.
This woman has gone off the rails. She literally is trying to make the listener, the viewers, believe what she is saying is absolutely true, which is false. Name calling the president, name calling the deputy spokesperson Huckabee, name calling, railing against them as though that they're bullying the news media, bashing the news media, just tearing into us for no good reason. All we're doing as media personnel is defending the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, Emancipation Proclamation, and 1674 and 1593. All of those count for something. Add them up.
And while you have your calculators, while you try to get them to the order,
I love how she's saying that he stood up for his First Amendment. This is the
he stood up and he just started spouting off as loud as he can, hoping that he could get as many words out in whatever random order they were coming out, just long enough that he could get a viral video. I'm gonna be a YouTube star. Spicer nailed it. These people are getting into the press room and they're just trying to do something to become a viral video. They want to be YouTube stars. And I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about when they give somebody a press pass, and Shallon's not going to do that. She's not going to go in there and say, oh my gosh, it's my only time ever going to be in here. It's my one chance to get on the trending videos on YouTube. I'm going to go, that's not going to happen. And that's the good thing. That's a good thing about having Smith Radio have press passes. Then, whoever this Brian Kekistan hater, whatever, it starts with a K. Brian Can. Yeah. Whatever he is. He wants to be a viral sensation. And the funny thing was, in his attempt to spew stuff out that sounded like angry stuff towards Sarah Huckabee Sanders, he accidentally said something totally factual, which is that she's coming out here and saying stuff that makes it sound like that Trump's always right and we're always lying fake news. Well, guess what? That was dead on balls accurate. Dead on accurate. Yes, that's exactly what he's doing, and that's exactly what she's doing. Why? Because they just are trying to get the facts out there, and he accidentally told on himself, and Joy Reid's praising him for it, which is hilarious. Joy Reid also tweeted today.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, well, you know that Donald Trump tweeted this morning that was hilarious, which we talked about at the beginning of the show.
Right.
The wrestling, the clothesline, CNN's head is posted on top of Vince McMahon's, make it look like he is just beating up all over CNN. She retweeted with a quote that tweet from Donald Trump, and she wrote, "Sorry, but if you voted for this, or you, quote, protest voted, or you're covering for him in cowardly fashion in Congress, you own it. Good luck." So she's trying to peer pressure anybody who, and I'm going to be honest with you, there are definitely a certain segment of the population.
You want to talk about peer pressure? What do you know about pressure? We can get into the guy on Facebook, local guy.
Oh,
don't forget about him.
We'll get it. Okay, right. You know what? I'm glad you reminded me of him. We will definitely get to him. But the peer pressure thing, she's trying to peer pressure people out there. There's definitely a segment of the population who was kind of on the fence. They don't listen to politics very much at all. They get all their political news from Hollywood. Maybe occasionally they'll listen to Jimmy Fallon, who will throw in a couple political jokes in his opening monologue. That's where they get their politics from. I mean, these are people who are really disconnected from whether they don't even know whether what they're listening to is real or fake or parody or whatever. And they just assume that if it comes from CNN, it's got to be real. Right?
Correct.
So I get it. She's trying to say that you protest voted or you're covering for him or covering for him in a cowardly fashion. But then she said, if you're in Congress covering for him, you own it. Good luck. Well, we're coming up on election season. So Joy Reid is trying to send a message to congressmen who are running for re-election in 2018 that you better be careful about supporting Trump or covering for Trump or claiming that you voted or supported him, because good luck, because this is the year that you're going to have to convince enough voters to reelect you. So anyway, I responded to her and I said, covering for him? Yeah, we cover him on Smith Radio every day. It's called journalism. Try it sometime. Hashtag fake news. Bam! That's my response to Joy Reid.
Joy Reid, you got it. You got it coming to you.
Yeah,
seriously.
So,
I mean, and don't get me wrong. We've said it many times here on the show, and we'll say it again. If Trump does something that's inaccurate, something that's wrong, if he lies about something, if something is just really, he makes a decision that we disagree with, I'll be the first to tell you. It's just, there's no question about it. As it stands right now, though, a lie is knowingly saying something that's false. That's not in Donald Trump's blood. It just doesn't happen. When it does, and we're looking for it, when and if it does, we'll point it out and we'll say it. There's no question about it.
Right. Well, Peer pressure. Should we get into the peer pressure argument?
Yeah, get into old boy.
So back in the day, okay, there's the racial tensions are everywhere, but Cincinnati's one of these cities where we have a lot of descendants of slaves who were freed by the Emancipation Proclamation back in the 1860s. They make their way north, and as soon as they cross the Ohio River, as far as they're concerned, they reach the promised land and freedom. And probably a large portion of them may have been escaped slaves because they needed to go to the point where they're out of the South, so that they at least have some feeling of safety, that they're not going to be captured and sent back to the plantations or whatnot. So Cincinnati's like one of these places. We have the Freedom Center here in Cincinnati, which is a museum to the Underground Railroad and all this kind of stuff. So we have our civil rights leaders and all this kind of stuff here in Cincinnati, probably a little bit more so than a lot of other cities because of that history of Cincinnati. And one of the civil rights leaders in Cincinnati is Damon Lynch. And there's a Damon Lynch Jr., or maybe it's the second, Damon Lynch III. These are civil rights leaders from the past. They're getting kind of up there in age, but they have Damon Lynch IV, who's like close to our age. And shockingly, it shocked a lot of people around here, in the early stages of the Trump candidacy, during the primary and all that kind of stuff, Damon Lynch IV came out for Donald Trump.
Right.
And people were like, at this point, I was already a volunteer for the Trump campaign. And when I heard about this, I was like, oh my gosh, it's great news. Because the big, from day one, it was all about Donald Trump's a racist. From day one. Donald Trump has to be racist because he's running as a Republican. Right. Even though he has all these former employees and current employees that have worked for him in his company that are black, that are like, no.
And women.
They're like, no, he's not a misogynist. No, he's not a sexist. No, he's not a racist. So, Diamond and Silk are like, he's not a racist. So anyway, Damon Lynch IV came out for Donald Trump. So much so that our county Trump campaign, the representative said, hey, let's work together. Let's help get voters in Hamilton County to vote for him and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, that's Damon Lynch IV. And since, let's see, I'm trying to find, we ended up getting into a big, so what happened with Damon Lynch IV was that he,
not only did he support Trump, but during the Westchester.
Yeah, so Trump was going from city to city all over during the campaign. And Westchester is right outside of Cincinnati. It's really close. Everybody in Cincinnati went to the Westchester thing.
It's very affluent, big money, new money, big money. In Cincinnati, if you own a house that's around $200,000 or more, that's big money.
Yeah, if it's more than $200,000, you're upper middle class.
Yeah, you're
in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati, you're pretty wealthy. So
wealthy, I would say upper middle class. Middle class.
But Westchester has it.
Oh yeah, they're upper middle class. Yeah, so they have some pockets that are really like $300,000 type homes. But anyway, so Damon Lynch was asked to come, and being a Trump supporter that he was, he said, "Yeah, I'll come." And I'll lead the prayer.
I'll say prayer.
Yeah. And so I had to remind Brian, because he doesn't know anything about Damon Lynch, but he remembered, he went. I didn't go. I didn't go to Westchester. But Brian went, and I was trying to explain who Damon Lynch was, and finally I said, you know who he is. He's the guy that led the prayer before the Trump rally.
All right.
So what did you think of him when you, because I wasn't there for the prayer. What did you think of the prayer?
Well, I was excited that at every rally we went to, I was excited because of the diversity of people, from young kids to older grandparents, white, black, Indian, Muslim, whatever, Asian. There were a lot of Asians there. I mean, it's just the diversity of individual Americans that showed up was amazing. And when we would see the pastor, Pastor Burns, I think it's Burns, that would get up, the really boisterous black man that is said many prayers for
Is
Trump.
he the one that came to
Columbus?
Columbus. Oh,
Yeah.
he was good. He
Very
was really
good.
Yeah.
But when you see that, it's like awesome. That's America. All
Yeah,
of
because
us.
when you go to the Romney and you go to the McCain, which was 2008,
Goo.
it was very disappointing, the lack of diversity. I knew that they should be there,
right?
But they weren't, and it was just disappointing. But anyway, so what?
25 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. So he led the prayer, and I heard that there was a standing ovation.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody clapped for him when it was over with. It was amazing.
I mean, not very often does somebody do a prayer and then afterwards it's clapping.
Very patriotic, very emotional, just really down to it.
You would consider him
safety-
having leadership qualities.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Leaders, but the safety for Trump, safety for America, America first, make America. I mean, just all of that was part of it. It was really good.
Okay, so I started following him on Facebook because he was a Trump supporter. Well, guess what? As the Trump campaign went on, apparently he was getting massive peer pressure from all of his closest friends and all of his followers and saying you're a sellout. How could you be a black man in the city and support this guy? And he couldn't do it. He couldn't handle the pressure. It was very cowardly. Damon Lynch IV stopped supporting Trump because of a cowardly inability to defend his true feelings about his support for Trump. And so it just went to the wayside, and now you would, if you ever listen or see any of his posts or listen to him, you'd think, oh, this guy's a total never Trumper. And that's just really sad. But anyway, I kept on following him, and we're in the same city together, so we all have to live here together. And every once in a while, he posts some dumb racist remarks. And being the leader that he is, I don't let him get away with it because I don't want all of his followers to listen to that and say, right on, man, you know, what you say is the truth. Man, screw that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and tell you about this tongue lashing that he received by me because of a post he put up there. So he put up there, as a black man, I have been taught to be hard amongst my peers and soft amongst my white power structure.
Yikes.
I didn't even know what the hell that meant, but I thought that sounds pretty stupid. So I'm going to go ahead and tell him what I think about that statement. So I said, why were you, quote, taught differently as a black man? Sounds like you've been manipulated by your elders. Break free from those shackles.
Break free.
Of course,
Say it again.
when I read that to my sister, she goes, oh, Carrie, you can't use the word shackles when you're talking to a black man. Literally. Now, my sister,
she's married to a black man.
Right. And I'm just like, oh, hell no. First of all, when I see a white man whose brain has been totally sheepified and enslaved, and you don't have to be black to be enslaved. If you are a liberal, you are mentally enslaved. So, yeah, I just happened to use that word, and I'm proud of it. And it's not, when it comes to using words that allude to slavery, I mean, when we're talking about communism, I mean, it is what it is. What are you going to do? So anyway, he said, we don't even want to dive into what you were taught as a white man on this post. My elders were assassinated by yours when they built our community and organized the culture. Get the F off my post talking about shackles. Mind your business and watch your word choices when you talk to me. So right off the bat, he's trying to scare me into, he's trying to censor me with peer pressure. He's trying to pressure me because he's thinking, oh, I got a 9-to-5 job. I have colleagues. I have a boss who could fire me. I have family members who might see this on Facebook. He was literally trying to intimidate me on Facebook. So I was not having any of that. And I said, hey, I went to CPS, which is Cincinnati Public Schools, inner city public school system, for 13 years, post-integration. And what I mean by that is they had introduced integration into our schools when I was in second grade. So I went there for all those years with integration. They integrated the black, white, community, all that so that the school was mixed. We were integrated. What different do you think I was taught? No elder that I ever personally knew assassinated anyone. I agree that your culture has some devastating problems. That wasn't created by anyone I know, and certainly shouldn't be considered outside the controls of those living it. And as far as my word choices, deal with it. Your attitude is extremely limiting to you personally. Your leadership makes your attitude ultimately limiting to your community. Your legacy will be the continued mental enslavement of your culture. You can hate on me all you want, but sometimes the truth hurts. Don't blame me. Look in the mirror.
Right.
So he wrote, Carrie, you lost it. You went to a school that your elders made the curriculum, not mine. Are you serious? The curriculum today is total fake social justice warriors crap. I'd rather have the curriculum of true facts and real history than the crap he's got. But anyway, that's what he said. The history is skewed in your favor. You learned that Columbus discovered in 1492, right? I mean, there's a history of Christopher Columbus and what he did, but sure, there were other people that discovered America before him, but it wasn't taught in the history books, and that was wrong. So I agree with him on that. Edison discovered lights. Actually, he invented the light bulb, so I don't know why he said that. He definitely invented the light bulb. There's patents out there that prove it, right?
Yeah.
So, white men founded America. Well, if he's talking about the United States of America, Frederick Douglass had some input on that, didn't he?
Yes, absolutely.
So, but for the most part, that's true, right? I mean, it's true. White men founded America. He's talking about the United States of America. That's what I'm assuming. Yeah, we went to the same school, processed the same messages. We meant to empower little white boys. He thinks that what we learned in school was meant to empower little white boys. The story is different when the lion has the gun. So he's trying to say that if they had power, they would kill us all. That's what that means. When you talk about this,
what's so frustrating is that Obama.
It's got to be blood is shooting out of Brian's eyes.
Obama has been so divisive in the last 8 years. Honest to God, in the 90s leading up, even 2001, 9/11, just shortly after that, I honestly believed we were in a new era.
I do too.
Race was not even an issue in the sense that
race relations was excellent in the 90s. And for those of you that say, what? We had the riots in 1992. Remember the riots in L.A.? Rodney King. Yeah. Here's what you don't know, and the media will never let you know. In 1992, when we had those riots, we had a big problem with some massive racism and corruption in the L.A. police force.
Right.
The LAPD
massive
had some problems, and it was involving racism, and it was involving corruption. LA is not the United States. We did not have that problem in Cincinnati. We didn't have that problem in thousands of other cities and towns across America. And the liberals successfully extrapolated a problem in one major city to all of America, and that is wrong. That is fake news. That is so wrong. And that went on to the liberals were able to bring that out to the controversy of the O.J. Simpson verdict.
Right.
I guarantee you what happened in L.A. With the riots in '92 is what caused this racial division between who thought that O.J. Simpson should go free or who thinks that he should be in prison.
Well, not only that, but Democrats saw that as an opportunity. Yes. They are opportunists.
Absolutely. But the truth of the matter is, you take away that little pocket of a racial problem in L.A. and maybe a couple other cities that we never knew about, race relations were excellent through the 90s.
Right.
Flat out. Right. So anyway, he's just totally but Obama really set it all back. Set it way back.
Probably decades. Yeah. Decades.
So I responded by saying, he actually said a whole bunch. I agree with you that your history's wrong. Most of it had nothing to do with race, though. My elders did none of what you're accusing me of or my elders of. I don't let people I never knew decide what's going to happen to me in my life. But if you're talking about ancestry, several of my great-great-grandfathers fought for the North in the Civil War. And at least one of them took a musket ball. I actually have documentation that proves I have a great-great-grandfather that actually was wounded in a battle in the Civil War. He took a musket ball to the arm, and he ended up getting a pension for it and all that. I don't go around blaming people whose ancestors fought for the South. Think about it.
No.
If I acted like Damon Lynch, I'd be looking for anybody who I thought was a Southerner and saying, you shot my people. You killed my people. Because my people fought for the North. But I don't have that attitude. So, I don't go around calling German citizens today, German citizens. Do we go around calling them Nazis?
No.
Why
Could
would
you
we?
imagine a German citizen that actually lived in Germany during World War II?
But your people. They gassed the Jews.
They gassed them. Your peoples did it.
Oh, my gosh. And by the way, there are a lot of Germans today, young German citizens, who are guilt-ridden over that. And it's like, dude, you weren't even alive.
And
Move on.
They're allowing the media to guilt them into submission.
I said, I'm not going to accept the notion that today's black people are former slaves. They're not, and they never have been. It's true. There are no former slaves left alive.
Not only that, but ask them one question. Where can a black man, woman, or white woman go in this world and have it better than in America?
Okay, there you go. Now, here's the big one. I mean, if you stop and think about it, the only reason you know your ancestors were slaves is because you have the physical trait of skin color. But if there were no physical characteristics, you would never know. You would have no idea whose ancestors shot my ancestors in the Civil War. It really boils down to is that you need to get past skin color. You need to stop letting the color of one's skin and stories from history that you admit right here can be questionable and faulty shape your life today. Think about it. If he's questioning what we learned as kids in school and accepting this new history, there's some faultiness there. I mean, who knows what's true anymore, right?
Right.
And the only reason he knows that his ancestors were slaves was because he shares their characteristics that can only be passed down through, genetic traits and passed down through the generations.
Right.
Because he's a black man. So he knows or thinks, and by the way, Barack Obama has no slave ancestors.
None.
Because his black father didn't live in America, wasn't from America, and has no ancestors from America.
Yeah, Frank Marshall Davis.
Okay, I stand corrected. Dude, Brian just throwing salt on my game on that one. So anyway, this thread goes on and on and on, and we could spend probably another hour on it. I just wanted to get that point across. At the end of that long thread where I'm blowing up this racist punk named Damon Lynch IV. You can find him on Facebook under Damon Lynch IV. He's a civil rights leader whose father and grandfather were civil rights leaders and probably still are for the most part. His father still is.
Well, once
and
you get into
racist punk,
once you get into that career, you never leave. It's like the mafia.
Think about it.
It's like the mafia.
If he solves race relation problems, he's out of a job.
Yeah, so you wouldn't do it.
And he was a Trump supporter who didn't have the courage to stand up to his friends who were blasting him. He couldn't take that some of his close friends that he grew up with were calling him an Uncle Tom. That makes you a coward.
Yeah,
and he is a coward.
Follow Larry Elder, who's a very famous talk show host out in L.A., who's black and articulates conservatism.
He's the one that says that conservatism will free the black community.
Conservatism will free the black community. And what does he get for saying that? He gets punched in the teeth every time he turns around, called an Uncle Tom, called a bootlegger, called all these racist, racial things from the left who's still allowed to say racist things. How's that possible?
We brought up Milton Friedman earlier, earlier in the show. His number one disciple, like his main apprentice, was Thomas Sowell. Did you know that?
Thomas Sowell.
Yeah, well, he's a black man who's ultra conservative economist. He's a towering philosopher of economy, and almost everything comes out of his mouth sounds almost exactly like Milton Friedman. And he may have a nephew that's like, oh, that's your Uncle Tom? Yeah. And he really, seriously, because it's just a shame, but there's a lot of peer pressure that's going around that is causing these problems. And it's not about race. It's not about skin color. It's about the culture of Marxism.
Right.
And it gets passed down by these leaders, these civil rights leaders, who ultimately, if you really stop and think about it, are using the division and the hatred and the racism to further their own careers. That's what it boils down to.
Well, I mean, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, I mean, they're still full-fledged in it. Whenever they see the opportunity to be opportunists, they certainly do, and they certainly will. This thing, I know we did a show, it's last week or the week before, that said killing Trump is killing America.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm done with the threats, the insinuation of threats, the death threats.
It keeps coming.
From media outlets.
That's scary. We talked about William Randolph Hearst. He's the one who's responsible.
Go back over that one again. Yeah. Go back.
So what happened was we had an assassination a long time ago, turn of the 20th century. McKinley. McKinley was shot and killed, and it caused a little bit of problem in the media, because what happened was back when William Randolph Hearst was the big, like he was the multi-millionaire back when millionaires back then were like billionaires today, like one of the richest men on earth at the time. He owned a network of newspapers across America, and he was in charge of what was written about everybody. And he said in all of his newspapers that somebody should put a bullet in President McKinley's head. That's what he said in all of his newspapers. And he kept on telling everybody that we need to trash this guy, we need to destroy him, and it's freedom of press, freedom of speech. We need to be able to be legally allowed to say, put a bullet in his head. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, he was shot and killed, assassinated, and that caused everybody to start to question whether or not we should be allowed to call for the assassination of a president. That's the history of it. Because think about it. If you wanted to take the First Amendment literally, perfectly, as stated, you would be allowed to call for the assassination of anybody.
Sure.
And the only time you would actually get in trouble is if, I guess, somebody killed somebody else because of something you said. Maybe, and maybe even not. Maybe at the end of the day, you have to actually pull the trigger, right? That was how it was back in the day. If you didn't pull the trigger, you didn't get in trouble. Mafia leaders were allowed to get away with murder because if they told somebody or ordered one of their minions to kill somebody and they did it, they couldn't bust the mob boss for ordering the hit because that was protected under freedom of speech. You were allowed to order a hit, and it was up to the hitman to say, no, I'm not going to do that because that's murder. So the hitman would go to jail for murder because he did murder, but the person ordering the hit would be protected by the First Amendment. So this is something I didn't say during that episode, so this is new. We need to have a debate, and I'm serious, amongst conservatives, amongst all Lauren Southern, all these people that talk about whether or not we should be Laura Loomer, Lauren Southern, all these people, Tim Pool, whoever. We need to have a conversation. Should we be allowed to call for the assassination of the president? Because everybody talks about freedom of speech, freedom of speech. Well, if you want to be able to say that we can have Playhouse in the Park act out the assassination of the president, we should be allowed to do that. Then we need to have a conversation about whether or not that anybody should be allowed to say, legally say, that we should, somebody needs to go out and put a bullet in the president's head. And if that's going to be protected under the, I'm going to say this as a fact because it is. I'm sorry, people, it's a fact. If we allow that, which maybe we should, let's have a conversation. If we allow that, then we also have to accept the fact that we're periodically going to have assassinations of our leaders. It's going to happen.
Right.
That is a fact. That's not my opinion. This is a verifiable fact that there's always going to be some crazy idiot out there that says, well, William Randolph Hearst says we should put a bullet in his head. Imagine how happy William Randolph Hearst is going to be if I put a bullet in his head. And then they're going to go and do it.
Right.
It only takes 7 billion people on Earth, 350 million in America. It just takes one stupid, crazy person to say, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then do it. So here's what you need to have the discussion about. If you're willing to have full-blown 100% constitutional freedom of speech, then you need to accept the fact that, you know what, our president's going to
There's going to be some broken eggs.
There's going to be some broken eggs, and we're going to have to accept it. And when it happens, we just need to replace them and be okay with it. Me personally, I told this to somebody the other day, so you're going to hear this for the first time. I said this to somebody in private, and I'm going to say it to you all publicly. If we lose Trump, it's over. America is over.
Why do you think we pray for Trump every single day? Pence will not be able to handle it.
No. We lose Trump, and it is over.
We can't have this. Chris Matthews. This is Chris Matthews.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson explodes at a White House meeting for undermining him. They say the people around the president, the personnel people, are screwing him. It's a far cry from that love feast we watched a few weeks ago, which was right out of Mengistu's government in Ethiopia, with all those people bowing to the president. Now, Ashley, I'm allowed to have opinions on this show, and one of my opinions was that nepotism is a bad thing in government. It just is. You put Uday and Kusei in your government, and you're going to have a problem with everybody else in the government, because nobody can fight with them. Nobody can challenge them. In the end, the son-in-law is always right, because he always can go to his father-in-law or his wife and say, they were mean to me. The power seems to have gone to the son-in-law. This is the Romanovs. Just a thought. The Romanovs. Is it? And then you find out in all these investigations that Jared was opening up a tunnel to Moscow so that he wouldn't have to deal with the State Department. So the son-in-law, you know, one good thing Mussolini did was execute his son-in-law. I mean, Cacciano.
So Chris Matthews is saying that it would be a good thing for Trump to execute his son-in-law, Jared.
Best thing that Mussolini did was murder his son-in-law.
Yeah, he isn't saying it's a good thing. He said it would be the best thing.
The best thing, best thing to do is murder your son-in-law. He keeps mentioning Uday and Kusei. I just want to remind you, those are the sons of Saddam Hussein.
And they made Saddam Hussein seem like a civilized human being.
They were brutal as brutal could possibly be.
They treated human beings the way those really evil kids treat animals. You know, the ones that does like that
bury a cat and run a lawnmower over its head.
Oh yeah, that kind of stuff. Literally that kind of stuff.
Uday and Kusei. So thank you, Chris Matthews, for comparing Donald Trump's son-in-law and daughter.
I can debunk him real quick.
Go ahead.
Chris, where is Mussolini's place in history? And how did that work out for him to do what you thought the best thing he did was?
Yeah.
What, are we supposed to look to Mussolini as like, that's the benchmark for what we want in a president of the United States? What a moron! Right. Total moron.
And then this is Trump this week.
The fake media is trying to silence us, but we will not let them, because the people know the truth. The fake media tried to stop us from going to the White House, but I'm president and they're not.
Yeah.
Their agenda is not your agenda. You've been saying it. I will never stop fighting for you. I am delivering on trade, on the economy, on the Supreme Court, on the Second Amendment, on our military, for our veterans.
And that is exactly what he's doing. If you don't think these are the best days we are living in right now, folks, trust me.
Yeah.
Trust me.
I am not stopped fighting for you. I feel like writing him a handwritten letter. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. President Trump. It'll get there. I feel like handwriting and saying, don't let these people break you down.
Well, when he sees...
We're still with you. You still be with us. Everything's going to work out.
When he sees the Supreme Court come back 8-0 for the travel ban...
Was it 9 or 8?
9-0?
Well, I know that... I think that was the first one that...
Before Gorsuch.
That was the first one Gorsuch was allowed to.
Okay, so 9-0. So
we forgot to ask Shallon. Shallon wanted to say on the air, because she's a lawyer. She's a lawyer, and she knows what she's talking. Whoa, wait. We're almost out of time, aren't we?
Who's that?
I don't know. So, no, Shallon wanted to say that by going 9-0, since there wasn't one single dissenter on that decision,
right,
that completely takes away from all of the credibility of the court that went the other way on it.
Oh, that is so awesome. Well, that's why they're pushing more and more and more. Trump is pushing more and more and more with extending the travel ban and everywhere else. So, all right. Have a good evening, folks. That's Smith Radio for you. We are here for you every weekend. And leading out with Whitney Houston's Star Spangled Banner.
Have a good 4th of July, people.